Chapter 197 The Primordial Chaos Ring really had good reasons for choosing Master, Little Black said, sighing. Little White nodded its head in approval. How could it be simple to become a Spirit Tools Master? Over the last few years, many cultivators were in contact with the ring, but the Primordial Chaos Ring didn't acknowledge any of them as its master. In my opinion, only Master had enough talent for the Primordial Chaos Ring to recognize her as its master. Right. I'm sure Master's name will definitely be known all across Shangxian continent one day. When that time comes, us black and white twin devils. When Bailey Hongzhuang woke up the next day, her body was covered in a film of filth and impurities. She immediately took a bath before sitting down to eat. Master, how was the results of that bone-cleansing pill you took earlier? Little Black asked, scuttling in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Not bad. I managed to get the maximum effectiveness from it. Since it was her second time, she knew what to do during and after the cleansing, so there was no problem at all. After the cleansing, she felt her body became much lighter. It was also seemed easier to cultivate. Although the effects weren't drastic, the benefits would be more pronounced in the future. It'll be the life and death battle soon. Master, are you prepared? Little Black was anxious. This battle had its risk. It was a life and death battle, so he could not help but worry. Bailey Hongzhuang patted Little Black's head. The furry feeling was very comfortable. Don't worry, Daijimon is not my opponent. The current eating Baisher walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and coyly said, Owner, best of luck. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. These three little guys are really cute. She didn't know if it was because Baisher was contained in that egg for too long or if it was just its glutton nature, but it had eaten a lot today as well. And at the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that Baisher's body and grew a few sizes. Demonic beasts, growth varies from beast to beast, but she had hoped that Baisher would quickly grow big. This way Baisher could become her right and left arm. At Wu time 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., the sun was in the air, shining with scorching hot and impatient heat. The life and death battle stage had long been surrounded by a crowd. It seemed as if the whole city came to watch the show. The surrounding restaurants were packed. At this time, to dine and drink tea while watching this show was the most comfortable. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the stage, she was able to see the lively scene. The corner of her lips hooked up. It seemed that there were many people in the imperial city who enjoyed a good show. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are here. Xiao Zifan and Zhao Yunqi ran to her as soon as they saw Bailey Hongzhuang arrive. They had a complicated feeling as soon as they saw Bailey Hongzhuang's arrival. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head. You two came quite early. Bailey Hongzhuang, the duel still hasn't begun right now. If you regret it, you don't have to fight. Don't let your life be lost in a moment of impulse. Zhao Yunqi cried out. In her opinion, her life was far more important than her face. Looking into Zhao Yunqi's worried eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang patted her head. Trust me. I'm not an impulsive person. Are you sure? Xiao Zifan asked. Bailey Hongzhuang grinned, of course. I'd never fight a losing battle. Chapter 198 Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang smile confidently, Xiao Zifan was somewhat reassured. He knew Bailey Hongzhuang's fighting strength wasn't weak at all. Since Bailey Hongzhuang already decided, he just needs to support her decision. Bailey Hongzhuang, I didn't expect that you'd actually have the guts to show up. A sharp sneer sounded from the crowd. The furious voice was no doubt Daijimon. Under the crowd's watching eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Daijimon on the other side of the stage. Today Daijimon was wearing a red dress again. She seemed like a blooming peony, extravagant with oppressing anger. Just standing there, the air was filled with a noble and doubtlessly arrogant aura. Her facial features were filled with conceit. Did you think everyone was a scoundrel like you? Bailey Hongzhuang spoke indifferently. Her voice was like a twinkling mountain stream, crisp but sweet. It wasn't overbearing and forceful like Daijimon's, but was enough to infuriate a person to death. Bailey Hongzhuang, you indeed won't repent unless you die. Even now you're still acting like a dead duck refusing to admit its mistakes. Daijimon's voice was filled with fury. She originally thought that after a night's thoughts, Bailey Hongzhuang would find her challenge stupid and regret it. She didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang actually didn't change at all. You didn't even strike, so how could you say that I'll lose? It's too early. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Dai Jimon indifferently. Compared to Dai Jimon's overbearing attitude, Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to be very heedless. But in contrast, Bailey Hongzhuang clearly had a plan. Dai Jimon's father, Dai Tianxiong, sized up the calm and indifferent Bailey Hongzhuang. When he heard about Dai Jimon and Bailey Hongzhuang's clash yesterday, he felt the whole situation was very thorny. As a senior, he shouldn't meddle with the younger generation's affairs. The younger generation's conflicts were many. If he interfered, the situation would become very complicated. But a life and death battle, it was a matter of a life. If she was an ordinary person, he wouldn't care. But Bailey Hongzhuang's current identity was very sensitive. Chan Wangfei, godly doctor, Azure Water School's personally invited student, her backing as Bailey Zhentao's daughter, added up in one person, Bailey Hongzhuang was in no way easy to deal with. Although Bailey Zhentao and Bailey Hongzhuang's was never good, with Bailey Yuyan's death, Bailey Hongzhuang was the most outstanding child from the general's household. He believed Bailey Zhentao's attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely change. They always cared about the younger generation's strength. If Bailey Hongzhuang revealed her strength from the beginning, her current situation wouldn't have fallen into her current circumstances. Bailey Hongzhuang, yesterday, did you cause trouble with Jimon bidding for the bone-cleansing pill? Dai Tianxiong said slowly, calm and collected. This was the thing he was most dissatisfied about. Just how rare was a bone-cleansing pill? If Dai Jimon got the bone-cleansing pill yesterday, her cultivation and potential definitely would have improved. Her performance in Azure Water School would definitely improve as well. But everything was ruined by Bailey Hongzhuang. Hearing his words, Bailey Hongzhuang's curved into an unruly smile. In an auction, the highest bidder gets the treasure. She didn't bid higher than me, so she lost. How could you say I was trying to give her trouble? I really can't understand General Dai's logic. Even so, raising the price by a single gold coin, was that not purposely trying to humiliate Jimon? Dai Tianxiong's voice sunk, a faint threat entwining with his words. Chapter 199. Bailey Hongzhuang's sharp eyebrows raised as if she did not care about the threat in Dai Tianxiong's words at all. If you want to ask me the reason why I did this, then you should ask your precious daughter. With this one remark, everyone below the stage nodded. It was clearly Dai Jimon that had provoked Bailey Hongzhuang's friends yesterday at the auction, and she had only just given Dai Jimon a taste of her own medicine. Only Bailey Hongzhuang's method was very peculiar. The increased value of this one gold coin shocked everyone. In the end, doing this still means you're in the wrong. Dai Tianxiong said in a cold voice, I want you to apologize to Jimon right now. In your dreams. Bailey Hongzhuang said these words very crisply, like she did not consider it at all. It was your daughter's fault and you want me to apologize? General Dai, are you sure you're awake? Dai Tianxiong revealed a frown. He finally realized just how sharp Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth was. He had no way of refuting this at all. Seeing as you are the daughter of General Bailey, as long as you apologize to Jimon and take out the bone pill as compensation, I will let you go and not fight you over this today. Dai Tianxiong's voice was filled with a tone suggesting she couldn't resist. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, he would have been too lazy to even say this. Dai Jimon's heart was filled with dissatisfaction. She had wanted to use this chance to kill Bailey Hongzhuang, but her father did not allow her to do it. It was fine if Bailey Hongzhuang just took out the bone pill. After they arrived at the academy, she would think of a way to kill her. When the crowd heard Dai Tianxiong's words, their eyes all fell onto Bailey Hongzhuang. This was a good chance for her. If she took out the bone pill, even if she did lose some face, she would still be able to keep her life. In the restaurant, Xin Yuan Huan and Xin Yuan Jing looked over at Bailey Hongzhuang. They wanted to know what decision she would make. From what I can see, she will definitely agree since it is just a bone pill. Although it is valuable, it can't compare to how valuable her life is. Xin Yuan Jing slowly said. Xin Yuan Huan slightly shook his head. That isn't Bailey Hongzhuang's personality. She will not agree. In the past few days, he had understood a bit about Bailey Hongzhuang. The more someone pressured her, the more she would fight back. Bailey Hongzhuang had a deep pride in her bones. This Bailey Hongzhuang truly has good luck. General Dai is actually willing to cancel this battle of life and death. Bailey Haoxuan gritted his teeth and said. Although Xin Yuan Huan had said that Bailey Yuyan had died at the hands of the Windwolves, He did not believe. He had a feeling that Bailey Yuyan's death had been caused by Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing this waist that he had trampled on before shining like this now, from the bottom of his heart, he had no way of accepting this. Su Wangjing revealed a sinister look. This damn Bailey Hongzhuang, she really is lucky. It doesn't matter, I've already found an assassin anyway. Even if Dai Jimon doesn't kill Bailey Hongzhuang on the life and death stage today, she still will not live to see tomorrow. Su Wanjing spoke in a sinister voice. I will definitely get revenge for Yuyan. Bailey Yuyan, her beloved daughter, was now dead. And a waste like Bailey Hongzhuang had lived, taking Yuyan's spotlight. How was she suited for it? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her chin and revealed a charming smile like a flower blooming, but her eyes became as sharp as swords. I will also give you a single chance. As long as Dai Jimon kowtows and apologizes to me, I will spare her life. Chapter 200. Her words were domineering and haughty, pressing forward, violent and aggressive. Even in front of Dai Tianxiong, Bailey Hongzhuang still didn't give any face. Everyone watching all sucked in a cold breath. They hadn't expected her to be so wild. Bailey Hongzhuang was only speaking conceited nonsense, facing the stronger Dai Jimon. She even said that she'd let Dai Jimon beg for forgiveness? Dai Tianxiong's face instantly turned livid. Bailey Hongzhuang clearly didn't give him the least bit of face. Master, this kind of person won't shed tears until she sees the coffin, and she even said that she'll let me beg for forgiveness. Just let me kill her. Dai Jimon shouted angrily. Dai Tianxiong no longer blocked her. He only said that out of consideration for Bailey Hongzhuang's identity. Since she decided to refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, he didn't need to have any more apprehensions. Dai Tianxiong waved his sleeve, walking down the stage as he spoke. Jimon, perform well. Hearing his words, Dai Jimon's face turned excited, turning to look at Bailey Hongzhuang arrogantly. This was all because Bailey Hongzhuang had no eyes. Today, he'll let everyone personally witness her end. Bailey Hongzhuang, accept death. Dai Jimon drew out the whip by her waist, sinisterly smiling as she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's face never changed, the ice-chilling sword appearing in her hands. The sparkling and translucent blue sword blade released traces of cold air. This was the sword she had spent 100,000 gold coins to buy in the auction. The sharpness didn't even need to be mentioned. It had an ice property to it, so fighting with it would be like a tiger that has grown wings. After carefully examining it, she found that the ice-chilling sword's ice properties were truly exceptional. It was truly a great weapon. Xin Yuanjing watched, startled, turning to look at Xin Yuanhuan in astonishment. You really were right, Bailey Hongzhuang actually refused. Xin Yuanhuan faintly smiled. She isn't as simple as we previously thought. Even though everyone thinks that this battle was just something Bailey Hongzhuang did on impulse, I think that she has a plan. You think she can beat Dai Jimon? Xin Yuanjing's eyes widened, his face filled with doubt. Is she actually that strong? She was calm and ruthless when she faced the storm wolf. You mustn't judge a book by its cover. Seeing Xin Yuanhuan speak so confidently, Xin Yuanjing was also somewhat convinced and looked forward to the duel. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with smiles. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly courting death. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Dai Jimon teasingly. Dai Jimon, I'm giving you one last chance. If you kowtow to me and beg for forgiveness, I'll let you off. Otherwise, don't blame me for giving you a chance. Dai Jimon snorted coldly, staring at Bailey Hongzhuang disdainfully. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're still acting so arrogant. Take a look at your own strength, and if you still think that I'd kowtow and beg for mercy, I'll send you to hell. Saying that, Dai Jimon no longer hesitated. Brandishing her whip, she attacked. She had to tear Bailey Hongzhuang's mouth to pieces. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes slowly turned sharp, a cold wisp quietly flitting past her pupils. Her hand grasped the ice-chilling sword, simultaneously charging at Dai Jimon. Bang! Dai Jimon waved her whip at Bailey Hongzhuang, but she ducked, dodging her attack. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang's figure quickly charged at Dai Jimon. Her weapon was a sword. Only by being close to Dai Jimon's body could she use her full strength. Otherwise, her sword wouldn't even be able to touch Dai Jimon, who's standing so far away. Chapter 201 Daijimon guessed Bailey Hongzhuang's intentions and immediately accelerated the speed of her whip. The whip densely packed the area, hiding the skies and covering the earth, completely blocking Bailey Hongzhuang's charge forward. However, Bailey Hongzhuang completely ignored it, directly welcoming the whip with her sword. Bang! 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 The weapons were constantly colliding, neither of them ever backing down. Their power seemed to be the same. Watching this, the audience was astonished. Wasn't Chen Wangfei's cultivation a stage weaker than Daijimon's? They're fighting hand to hand. How could they both be evenly matched? Don't tell me Chen Wangfei broke through again? I said it wasn't certain that Bailey Hongzhuang will lose. This time you guys are all wrong. One man's face was filled with pride. Until now, everyone thought that it was impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to succeed. Only he believed that she would win. Everyone looked at each other. This scene was truly far beyond what they anticipated. Daijimon's heart was also in shock. She was clearly able to sense that Bailey Hongzhuang's cultivation was only at Mysterious Ian's early stage, but her fighting power was equal to her own. Thus, their strength was completely evenly matched. No way! Daijimon felt a burst of displeasure. She wanted to easily defeat Bailey Hongzhuang in front of everybody, not fight her evenly like this. Thinking up to here, Daijimon's eyes sharpened as the spirit power in her body whistled, congealing inside her. Serpent's shadow lash. Daijimon shouted coldly. Wisps of spirit power started radiating from the whip, its movements seeming almost as if it was a real snake. The long whip was extremely fast. The countless strikes seemed to change into countless snakes, biting at Bailey Hongzhuang. If she wasn't careful for even a second, Bailey Hongzhuang might lose her life. Seeing the whip's stunning display, everyone gasped in surprise. Cultivating an Azure Water School truly was something. Just the might of the martial skill caused people to have the sense that they could not go against it. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes turned cold, pouring all the spirit power in her dantian into the ice-chilling sword. You could only see the ice-chilling sword burst with brilliance, bright blue rays of light shining into everybody's eyes. Traceless kill. Bailey Hongzhuang shouted coldly. Her sword suddenly waved, releasing neon colors of light, cutting off the world. Bang! The snakes that covered even the sky immediately vanished. The whip that was attacking Bailey Hongzhuang was actually cut in half. A yellow-ranked advanced martial skill. Daijimon looked at Bailey Hongzhuang astonished. A cultivator's fighting strength depends on not only their cultivation, but also merit laws, cultivation manuals, and martial skills. Her Serpent's Shadow Lash was a yellow-ranked intermediate marital skill, and Bailey Hongzhuang's martial skill was a yellow-ranked advanced skill. Then as a result, her skill was broken by Bailey Hongzhuang's. How was this possible? Bailey Hongzhuang still hadn't started studying at Azure Water School yet, so how could she own a yellow-ranked advanced martial skill? Although Shangxian Continent's martial skills were divided into 4 ranks: Heaven, Earth, Mysterious, and Yellow. The most commonly seen were yellow-ranked martial skills and mysterious-ranked martial skills. Earth-ranked martial skills were rarely seen, and Heaven-ranked martial skills existed only in legends. As Hotian realm cultivators, the most common ranked martial skill for them were yellow-ranked martial skills. Even yellow-ranked martial skills were very precious. Wanting to find one that suited you was even more difficult. She was already very pleased with her yellow-ranked intermediate Serpent's Shadow Lash, but how could Bailey Hongzhuang's martial skills rank be even higher than hers? Chapter 202 Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with ridicule. She ignored Daijimon's shock and continued her attack. She already gave Daijimon a chance. Now that the life and death duel's begun, only one can leave alive. Daijimon was no longer arrogant, her charming face pale. Now that her weapon was broken, how could she still make a stand and fight against Bailey Hongzhuang? Wait a minute. Daijimon constantly retreated and hurriedly shouted, "This isn't fair. I don't have a weapon." Hearing her words, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes turned mocking. "I see. You studied in Azure Water School for a whole year, and then actually wanted fairness in a life and death duel. Ridiculous." Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, but even everyone in the audience thought that it was rather ridiculous as well. Your weapon was chopped in half by the enemy because you weren't strong enough, and now you're actually saying it's not fair? At this kind of time, nobody cared if you had a weapon or not. This wasn't a child playing house. Shouting unfair won't change anything. But Bailey Honghang didn't care. Since you're complaining about your weapon, I won't use mine. That way, I'll let you die convinced. Even with the ice-chilling sword stowed away, Bailey Hongzhuang's offense didn't change. Her right hand made a fist and covered it with spirit power, striking at Dai Zhiman like a thunderbolt. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang put away her weapon, Dai Zhiman's face turned a little happy. In this situation, there was no way she can't beat Bailey Honghang. Dai Zhiman also made a fist, punching towards Bailey Hongzhuang's chest. Bang! Under everyone's shocked eyes, Bailey Honghang chose to neither dodge or block. Her fist didn't stop Dai Zhiman's, continuing to hit her chest. Dai Zhiman's face changed a little. She hadn't expected for Bailey Hongzhuang to face it head-on. It was truly beyond her expectations. Since she had gone up on the stage until now, she was always the one being beaten by Bailey Honghang. She was just completely humiliated. Thinking about that, Dai Zhiman's eyes boiled with rage. She wanted to see just how much courage Bailey Hongzhuang had. Thump! The heavy sound attracted everybody's attention. The crowd all stared at the two on the stage intensely, afraid that they would miss the show. That noise just now. I wonder who will win. Dai Zhiman's cultivation is higher, so Bailey Hongzhuang probably received more damage. Sigh. Chun Wangfei really didn't need to throw away her weapon. Otherwise, she would have won for sure. At this very moment, nobody doubted Bailey Hongzhuang's strength. Even facing the middle-staged mysterious Ian cultivator Dai Zhiman, she still held the advantage. Dai Zhiman looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, whose face was just almost within reach. Her beautiful face was extremely pale, her black eyes flickering with disbelief. You? Dai Zhiman was baffled, her face as white as a sheet. She sensed a huge force coming from her stomach, her 5 viscera and 6 bowels all bursting with a scorching pain. She simply didn't dare to believe it. She actually lost the battle? Boo! Dai Zhiman spat out a mouthful of blood, her body falling limply onto the ground. Everybody looked under and discovered that Bailey Hongzhuang's fist had punched the pit of Dai Zhiman's stomach, her left hand holding Dai Zhiman's wrist. Her fist was just a centimeter away from Bailey Hongzhuang's stomach. Bailey Hongzhuang was completely unharmed. Seeing this scene, everyone carefully engraved Bailey Hongzhuang into their hearts, astonished. Chapter 203. From the beginning, Bailey Hongzhuang already had a plan, but none of them had ever seen it. Lu Jingquan's face was very ugly. Since yesterday when Bailey Hongzhuang proposed the idea of a life and death duel, he had always felt that something was wrong. But Dai Zhiman completely ignored his advice. Now it seemed like Bailey Hongzhuang's combat strength was actually at Mysterious Ian's middle stage. Presumably, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't far from breaking through. At this moment he could finally understand why Bailey Hongzhuang got Azure Water School's invitation. Apart from those monsters, who else could challenge somebody beyond their grade? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips rose to form a beautiful smile, a thin layer of ice covering her eyes. Die! Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, her fist once again punching at Dai Zhiman. Dai Zhiman's eyes widened, staring at Bailey Hongzhuang in terror. From that fist she was able to sense dense, cold, killing intent. Bailey Hongzhuang really wanted to kill her. You dare! Dai Tianxiong shouted loudly. Everything had gone far past his expectations. Bailey Hongzhuang was actually so strong. But no matter what, he couldn't let Bailey Honghang kill Zhiman. Bailey Honghang raised her eyes, her face turning cruel as she looked at Dai Tianxiong. Her pupils grew even colder. Completely ignoring Dai Tianxiong's words, her first ruthlessly punched at Dai Zhiman's vital areas. Dai Tianxiong thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would stop when she heard his words, but never expected for her to not only refuse, but even turn fiercer. Dai Tianxiong wanted to rush out and protect Dai Zhiman, but he was already too late. Thump! A loud dull noise echoed around the stage. Dai Zhiman was sent flying by Bailey Hongzhuang's punch and landed heavily on the ground, creating a thick cloud of sand. Dai Zhiman stared at the white figure standing proudly up high on the stage, her heart surging with regret. She couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe that she had died at Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. Boo! She spat out another mouthful of blood, dyeing the cold ground crimson. Dai Zhiman could feel the strength fading from her body, leaving her dantian. She was about to die. Dai Tianxiong and Lu Jingkuan both immediately dashed towards Dai Jiman's body, their faces full of worry. Jiman, are you okay? Dai Tianxiong cradled Dai Jiman, asking anxiously. Dai Jiman shook her head. Daddy, avenge me. The next moment, Dai Jiman's neck turned crooked, no longer making a sound. Staring at the silent Dai Jiman, Dai Tianxiong's face turned extremely unsightly. He raised his head, his pitch-black eyes dyed with wisps of scarlet-red blood. Bailey Hongzhuang, you dared to kill Jiman. Dai Tianxiong's voice was threatening. Dai Jiman was his most beloved daughter. Now that somebody killed her right in front of his face, how could he possibly bear it? You Bailey Hongzhuang smiled mockingly. Since Dai Jiman accepted the life and death duel, so of course one would live and one would die. Why is this ending so unexpected for you? I already gave you guys a chance and you guys didn't take it, so now you're blaming me. This is ridiculous. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her sleeves, her eyes filled with a heartless ice. Her aura was simply tyrannical. Everyone nodded along. Before Bailey Hongzhuang had indeed given them a chance, but Dai Tianxiong and Dai Jiman didn't appreciate it. Now Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't wrong killing Dai Jiman. Even if you two had different views, there was no need for you to kill Jiman. Dai Tianxiong's voice was cold. Bailey Hongzhuang raised a brow. Now that Dai Jiman died, you're saying that I shouldn't have killed her. If I had lost just now, would you have told Dai Jiman to start off leniently with me? Dai Tianxiong's face changed. He never thought about it that way. Why should he care if Bailey Hongzhuang died or not? In short, he absolutely could not forgive Bailey Hongzhuang for killing Dai Jiman. Seeing Dai Tianxiong's face change, everyone in the audience could understand clearly. As early as the fight began, Dai Jiman was already plotting to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. If Bailey Hongzhuang was defeated just now, this stage would be her grave. Dai Tianxiong obviously wouldn't tell Dai Jiman to start off leniently. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang mentioned it, it really was ridiculous. If General Dai has nothing else to say, there's no need to speak anymore. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes glinted with killing intent, raising her brows arrogantly. Since you have offended Bailey Hongzhuang, you should be prepared to pay the price. Her haughty, icy clear voice echoed with incomparable power. Even facing Dai Tianxiong, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't hold the slightest speck of fear. Bailey Hongzhuang, are you not afraid of my revenge? Dai Tianxiong's face was extremely gloomy. He needed to avenge Jiman and kill Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang, had never been afraid of another. Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't afraid in the least, but Dai Tianxiong, if you dare to offend me again, prepare for your whole family to be exterminated. Bailey Hongzhuang fixed her eyes on Dai Tianxiong. Everything I say I will do. SS. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Bailey Hongzhuang and Dai Jiman's life and death battle finally finished. Now Bailey Hongzhuang even dared to threaten the general. For a moment Dai Tianxiong was frightened, staring into those cold eyes, deep like a black hole. That domineering manner, it wasn't just something she did on the surface, but a confidence she truly possessed inside her. How was this possible? Dai Tianxiong didn't dare to believe it. How could a mere 15-year-old little girl possibly have such an aura? No longer caring about Dai Tianxiong and the others, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly stepped off the stage. Every step seemed to prick at everybody's hearts. Nobody dared to speak in such an atmosphere. Just watching her as she faded off into the distance. Gazing at her proud white figure walking away, everybody's confidence couldn't help but shake for a long time. Chen Wangfei was actually so domineering. In a few short sentences, even Dai Tianxiong was slightly intimidated. Droplets of water dripped down Dai Tianxiong's gloomy face. He wanted to dispose of Bailey Hongzhuang, but Dai Jiman died to Bailey Hongzhuang in the life and death duel first. If he acted now, everybody would think that he was going back on his word. His honor and reputation as a general would be ruined. Revenge was something he could only consider later. When did Bailey Hongzhuang get so strong? Xian Yuanjing was speechless. Her strength wasn't any less than even Xian Yuanhuan's. Xian Yuanhuan shook his head sadly. I don't know. Seeing Xian Yuanhuan so frustrated and disappointed, Xian Yuanjing stopped talking. As his little brother, he knew clearly how much Xian Yuanhuan liked Bailey Hongzhuang. But now it might not ever happen. Trash. Bailey Haoxuan cursed angrily. He didn't think that Daijimon couldn't even beat Bailey Hongzhuang. A storm was once again set off in the imperial city. Almost everyone was talking about Bailey Hongzhuang's grade skipping battle. Nobody could see what happened during the royal family's hunting competition, but everybody could see the fight that had just happened right in front of them. Chapter 205 Chen Wangfei's fighting prowess grew even more famous and young cultivators idolized Bailey Hongzhuang even more. On the contrary, General Dai's household grew even more gloomy. Originally they thought that it was impossible for them to lose the duel. But now not only did Daijimon lose but also lost completely. Meanwhile, the center of this was very calm. For her, defeating Daijimon wasn't anything special. Returning inside the house, Bailey Hongzhuang handed Baisher to Little Black and Little White to babysit before beginning to cultivate like always. Soon she'll be attending Azure Water School, a school famous for its strength. It would be filled with strong people, so she needed to break through as soon as possible. Night slowly descended, covering the imperial city in a layer of darkness, quiet and serene. In the middle of cultivating, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly opened her eyes, sharply staring at the roof above her. Somebody was there. Master, someone came. At the same time, Little Black cried out, "It's not a good person." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded faintly. Sneaking on her roof this late at night, who else could it be but an assassin? Could it be that Dai Qianxiong acted fast and already sent for somebody to dispose of her? Let's go and see. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was heavy, her voice cold. If it really was Dai Qianxiong, then she could only say that he really wasn't afraid of death. Little Black and Little White hopped on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, following her outside the room. "Since you came, show yourself. There's no need to hide." Her cold, clear voice seemed to be indifferent and arrogant. It wasn't the slightest bit nervous from the assassin's appearance. On the roof, Xiao Ming's face was astonished when he heard Bailey Hongzhuang call for him. That woman's bearings really weren't simple. At first he hesitated when he found that the target was actually Chen Wangfei, but the reward was simply too rich for him to refuse. After he kills Bailey Hongzhuang, he'll leave the imperial city. After a few moments, he got off the roof and appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang examined the sneakily garbed man. His cultivation was actually at mysterious Ian late stage. "Who sent you?" Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face was covered with frost, her voice piercingly cold. Xiao Ming sneered. "I am only responsible for killing you. As for who sent me, I'm afraid that you won't ever know in this lifetime." His voice fell. Xiao Ming struck first. He was in a heavily guarded prince's palace. He needed to get the job done quickly, or else it'd be hard to escape once all the guards come. Ding! Bailey Hongzhuang quickly unsheathed the blue ice sword and clashed with Xiao Ming. Ding! 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 The sounds of metals colliding were endless. Xiao Ming was filled with shock. This woman's cultivation was only at the early stage of mysterious Ian, so how could she still be capable to fight against him? He could clearly sense that this woman was far weaker than him in both strength and power. She was fighting him with exquisite swordplay and will alone. She was only a 15-year-old girl. How could her combat experience be so rich? Xiao Ming was astounded. He couldn't believe what was happening before him. The palace's guards heard the sounds and immediately ran over, suddenly surrounding Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Ming. Wang Fei. The housekeeper was filled with fear. He didn't expect for the other party to be so bold and dare to try to assassinate Wang Fei at Chan Palace. If the Wang Fei met with an unexpected accident, they would all be buried in the line of duty. Chapter 206 What are you waiting for? Quickly capture that assassin. Xiao Ming's face suddenly changed. Even now he still didn't know how Bailey Hongzhuang found him. From that step, all of his plans had already been ruined. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the housekeeper and guard standing not so far away and raised her hand. "It's not important, I can deal with it myself." Hearing her words, the bodyguard sluggishly moved out of the way. Wang Fei wanted to deal with the assassins herself? Xiao Ming was losing his composure too. Never had he expected the bodyguards to move so fast, or even more inconceivably, that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to match him in combat for so long. Bailey Hongzhuang clearly understood her own strength, and so she fought with all of her power. Otherwise, there wouldn't be much benefit to fighting with Xiao Ming. She took out a bag of poison from her bosom and directly threw some at Xiao Ming. Under such a situation, there was already no point continuing to fight. She cared for not Xiao Ming, but the person behind Xiao Ming. Xiao Ming didn't expect for Bailey Hongzhuang to suddenly throw poison at him. When he finally reacted and covered his nose and mouth, it was too late. The spirit power in his body disappeared, changing him into an ordinary person. Bailey Hongzhuang held the sword's edge at Xiao Ming's neck. "Tell me who sent you." Xiao Ming looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, his face stubborn. "I won't tell you. Even if you don't tell me, I have my own methods." Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes glinted coldly. As a famous doctor and a poison expert, she was best at extorting confessions. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to the housekeeper and spoke, "It's all right, you can go now. Don't let anyone know what happened today." Yes, everyone knew that their Wang Fei was powerful and left one after another. Wang Fei was strong enough to handle it herself. Bailey Hongzhuang bound Xiao Ming to the door. "I'll give you one last chance to avoid suffering. Speak who sent you." "Give up, I won't tell you anything." He admitted that this was the first time he was caught, but he was a killer for many years. Never saying their employers' names was the way to survive. Hearing Xiao Ming's reply, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't surprised. Directly pinching Xiao Ming's chin, she forced a pill down his throat. "What did you make me eat?" Xiao Ming asked in alarm. "Something that will let you obediently tell the truth." Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold. "After you think for a bit, call me." Done speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang ignored Xiao Ming's surprise and returned to the bed to cultivate. A little assassin wasn't worth wasting so much of her time on. Xiao Ming just thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was deliberately trying to make it sound mysterious. At most, it'd only be poison. There was no way he'd reveal his employer just because of this. But before long, Xiao Ming's expression changed. Piercing pains burst in his heart, twisting his face. "What's happening?" Xiao Ming's face was terrified. What was that pill? How could he have never heard about it before? Cold sweat dripped down Xiao Ming's forehead. The unbearable pain was almost enough to make him collapse. Little Black and Little White looked at Xiao Ming proudly. Their master's methods were in no way comparable to an ordinary person's. "Ah!" Xiao Ming couldn't help but scream. The pain grew more and more intense, as if 10,000 maggots were chewing at his heart. It was a pain worse than death. Bailey Hongzhuang's face didn't change, continuing to cultivate calmly. "I'll talk." Xiao Ming's willpower finally crumbled in front of the torturous pain. I'll talk." But Bailey Hongzhuang didn't seem to hear him speak. Chapter 207. I'll tell you everything. Xiao Ming collapsed on the ground. "I'm begging you, let me go." Bailey Hongzhuang opened her eyes, icy cold and ruthless. "Speak." "The person who hired me is the general's madam, Su Wanjing." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows in surprise. She thought that it was General Dai who sent the assassin, not Su Wanjing. "Su Wanjing, you really did a great move." She originally thought that the general's household wouldn't have anything more to do with her. But it doesn't look like others think the same. "Since you've already lost your value, Dai." Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold, directly stabbing Xiao Ming with her sword. "If you can kill people, other people can also kill you." Since Xiao Ming wanted to kill her for money, he should also be prepared to be killed himself. In this word, it was especially true. "Master, this Su Wanjing is really annoying." Little Black's face was filled with hard-to-conceal fury. Su Wanjing was simply too stupid. Even though Master had already put her in her place, she still continued to make trouble. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. It seems like her lesson wasn't enough. She never had a good opinion of Su Wanjing. From childhood to now, Su Wanjing always looked kind-hearted. But in reality, while she and Qin Yayan both had a gentle and soft image in the general's household, their hearts were actually cruel and vicious. "Master, you should leave this to me and Little Black. From the moment we came here, me and Little Black had never revealed ourselves." Little White gave voice. Hearing their words, Bailey Hongzhuang fell silent for a moment. She didn't want to do this, but if she didn't, Su Wanjing would only continue her antics. So she could only settle it now. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head indifferently. Then I'll leave it to you. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang agree, Little Black and Little White's faces were filled with excitement. They quickly left for the general's household. Su Wanjing was constantly pacing back and forth inside her room. From time to time she would look outside the door, trying to find the late-staged mysterious Ian assassin. Dealing with Bailey Hongzhuang shouldn't be a problem at all. Only after Bailey Hongzhuang's dead can her resentment be quelled. At first, she hated Qin Yian to death. And now Qin Yian's daughter even killed her own child. How could she swallow it? That damn Qin Yayun, that wretched Bailey Hongzhuang, those two accursed bastards. But after waiting for a long time, Su Wanjing was slowly unable to stay calm. Why isn't he here yet? You're waiting for the assassin? A voice suddenly echoed across the room, smashing apart the room's silence. Su Wanjing was startled, but when she looked around the room in terror, nobody was there. Damn hag, trying to kill our master. You in front of Su Wanjing's shocked eyes, one black and one white fluffball appeared before her. In such a situation, the thought of their identities completely escaped Su Wanjing's mind. She could only stare blankly, asking, "Did Bailey Hongzhuang send you guys? She isn't dead? If you thought that assassin would be enough to deal with master, you're dreaming." Little Black snorted coldly. And this old hag is still speaking rubbish? Just kill her already. Little White was too lazy to deal with her nonsense. Brilliant rays of spirit power flooded the room, sending the scrambling Su Wanjing flying out of the room. Her body heavily hit the wall and slid down limply dead silent. Chapter 208. Little Black watched as Little White quickly disposed of Su Wanjing. His eyes filled with helplessness. I didn't even have a chance to do anything. Little White stuck out its tongue. I forgot. The next day, the news was all over the imperial city. The general's household madam had been mysteriously killed inside her room late last night, and the general's household was unable to find any traces of the culprit. This wasn't a trivial matter. The general's madam was a very distinguished identity. Now that the madam was killed inside her own room in her own house, the general's household's face can be considered as completely lost. Bailey Jintao didn't expect that just a few days after Bailey Yuyan's body was put into the coffin, Su Wanjing would also die. And not only was her death was a complete mystery, he didn't even have a clue of who could have killed her. Bailey Jintao didn't know, but Bailey Haoxuan's heart was very clear who it was. Mother had told him that she'd sent somebody to assassinate Bailey Hongzhuang. Right now, Bailey Hongzhuang was alive and his mother was dead. Who else could have done it but Bailey Hongzhuang? But he couldn't let anyone know. Otherwise, it'd turn into a huge scandal for the general's household. Father already told him to avoid Bailey Hongzhuang. Even if he did tell him, he was afraid that father still wouldn't do anything with Bailey Hongzhuang. He clenched his hands under his sleeves. Bailey Haoxuan's eyes were filled with bitter resentment. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, how could his family have possibly become like this? Bailey Jintao seemed to have turned many times older in one night. He could no longer bear the series of attacks raining down on the general's household one after another. He couldn't understand. In such a short time, his daughter and wife had died, leaving only him and Bailey Haoxuan left. Dai Tianxiong originally wanted to go argue with Bailey Jintao, but when he heard about Su Wanjing's death, he actually didn't know what to say. Azure Water School's exam is starting soon. Bailey Hongzhuang will have to leave sometime in the next few days, otherwise, she'll have no chance of making it. Dai Tianxiong's voice was heavy. Everything happened too suddenly. Finding a suitable assassin to kill Bailey Hongzhuang needed time. If it was too rushed, there might be some holes. At this moment, Lu Jingkuan suddenly spoke up. General, it's better to get someone to kill Bailey Hongzhuang after she enrolls in Azure Water School. Yunyang will definitely be able to avenge Jiman. Dai Tianxiong nodded his head slightly. Azure Water School was a place where most cultivators learned through experience, and could possibly lose their lives. In such a situation, it wouldn't be a problem at all if Bailey Hongzhuang died. Dai Yunyang was his son. He entered Azure Water School a year before Jiman, and already had a decent reputation in the school. He was Dai Tianxiong's pride and the Dai family's hope. Right, big brother's strength is outstanding. Killing Bailey Hongzhuang would be easy as blowing off dust. Lu Jingkuan agreed. Dai Tianxiong waved and a man immediately stepped forward. Immediately pass on the information about Dai Jiman's death and Bailey Hongzhuang to Yunyang. He'll definitely avenge Jiman. Yes. 3 days later, Bailey Hongzhuang packed up her things and left Chan Palace. Azure Water School was very far away. Even hurrying there would still take a very long time. Since she promised the 2 teachers that she wouldn't be late, she couldn't break her word. Xiao Zifan, Xinyuan Huan, and Jiang Hanyue had all left for Azure Water School together. Although they invited her 2 days ago, she chose to decline. She and Xinyuan Huan didn't exactly have a good relationship. If they traveled together, there was bound to be some sort of trouble. So, traveling alone would be far more free and relaxed. Xiao Zifan was very clear about Bailey Hongzhuang's situation, and immediately agreed to meet in Azure Water School. Chapter 209. Bailey Hongzhuang placed Baisher inside the primordial chaos ring. The ring was very different from ordinary storage tools like space bags. Space bags could only store inanimate objects, but the primordial chaos ring was capable of carrying living things. Right now Baisher was too small. It wasn't good to bring him while they were in a hurry. But over the past 3 days, Bailey Hongzhuang, Little Black and Little White found that Baisher grew up very quickly. Especially after eating the demonic cores, Baisher grew even faster. When Bailey Hongzhuang realized this, she began feeding it a demonic core every day. She believed that Baisher would grow up very quickly. As for Godly Dr. Square, Bailey Hongzhuang handed it over to Di Tianxua and Dong Sairu to manage. The 2 had an innate gift for medicine. Bailey Hongzhuang had actually personally written a medical book as a gift for the 2 and believed that as long as they studied it diligently, facing ordinary patients wouldn't be hard at all for them. Before she left, Bailey Hongzhuang had also talked to Ji Wenbin. He was the first friend she had since arriving in Shangxian continent. So as such, Bailey Hongzhuang saddled a good horse and left the imperial city, heading for her new school life. Time slowly passed by. On their way, they inevitably encountered some trouble, but most disputes were easily solved with Bailey Hongzhuang's strength. Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the border of Fenglin City. She was already beginning to run out of rations, so she wanted to stop by and get some more there. The next part of the mountain road was desolate and uninhabited. It seemed that getting her supplies wouldn't be very easy, but right after Bailey Hongzhuang finished buying her rations, a group of men surrounded her. "Take out all your money," one of them shouted. Hearing him, Bailey Hongzhuang raised a brow. The city borders were always a bit dangerous, but she didn't expect that today she would be getting robbed herself. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly turned her body, looking at the 5 men around her. A robbery? Huang Jiqing's eyes filled with lust when he saw her face. "Hey, I didn't expect it to be a beauty, ah." The other 4 men also stared at Bailey Hongzhuang's body. This was the first time they saw somebody so beautiful. Her looks were even more stunning than she's sure knockoffs. She's sure one of China's 4 legendary beauties, beautiful. Going into the outer parts of the city alone is very dangerous. It's better to come home with me. I guarantee that you'll never be unhappy. How about it? Huang Jiqing laughed evilly, reaching out to feel Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, black like ink, were filled with disgust as she stepped back, coldly speaking. "I'll give you guys 3 seconds to scram. Otherwise, you'll responsible for the consequences." Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's threat, Huang Jiqing was baffled for a split second before bursting into laughter. "Ha ha!" Huang Jiqing roared with laughter. "What did I just hear? This little beauty said we'll be responsible for the consequences? Right, the beauty looks like a hot little pepper. Huang Jiqing, you better be a bit more careful." The other male teased. Huang Jiqing's smile slowly vanished as he glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang and rebutted. "I'm actually very curious. How are you going to make me take responsibility for the aftermath?" When the surrounding people saw that Huang Jiqing and his group of 5 surrounded Bailey Hongzhuang, their faces all turned a little sympathetic. How pitiful. Another girl's going to be the victim of Huang Jiqing's group of scoundrels. This girl's only passing by, that's all. Who would have thought that she still couldn't escape from misfortune? Lower your voice, don't let Huang Jiqing hear you. Do you still want to continue your business? Chapter 210. Although everyone sympathized with Bailey Hongzhuang, nobody dared to step out and help. That scoundrel was simply too strong for them to do anything. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a cold smile, shouting indifferently, 3. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang begin to count down, Huang Jiqing and his cronies' faces turned a little bit ugly. This woman clearly wasn't giving them any face at all. 2. 1. Scram. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice turned cold as her eyes began to cover with frost. Hearing her voice, for some inexplicable reason, they all felt their hearts turn with terror. Huang Jiqing was somewhat astonished. The way this woman acted was truly different from the others. But this was his Huang Jiqing's territory. Huang Jiqing grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, a shameless smile playing on his face. I won't go, so why don't you hug me instead? You're courting death. Bailey Hongzhuang gripped Huang Jiqing's wrist, spirit force surging through her body, attacking like lightning. The thing she hated most were hoodlums that did nothing but harass others for a living. From the crowd's faces, she knew that this definitely wasn't the first time a girl almost fell into his evil schemes. Kacha! A sharp, crisp sound echoed. Huang Jiqing's hand had been directly chopped off by Bailey Hongzhuang. Blood dripped on the floor, followed by Huang Jiqing's scream like a dead pig's. Ah! Huang Jiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang terrified. He hadn't expected for this woman to act so ruthlessly. This was the first time having such a grave injury. Save me! The 4 men finally reacted, charging at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang kicked Huang Jiqing aside, her figure moving to meet the 4 men. The 4 were only at mysterious earth initial stage. Although it was a bit powerful against ordinary people, it was nothing in front of a cultivator like Bailey Hongzhuang. Thump! 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 The sounds of punches and kicks were followed by blood-curdling screams. The 5 men were thrown into a pile by Bailey Hongzhuang, appearing just like a human pyramid. He was now struggling like a turtle, no longer showing any of his former arrogance. Everybody was stupefied. Until now, they were all forced to act as accomplices to the tiger. Their suffering was terribly hard to bear, but there wasn't anything else they could do. But nobody expected for this delicate girl that looked as if she didn't even have enough strength to truss a chicken, to beat Huang Jiqing and his men to the point where they couldn't even fight back. Get lost! Bailey Hongzhuang shouted coldly. Killing these scum would only dirty her hands. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's order, Huang Jiqing and his men looked as if their lives had been saved, immediately crawling up and running away. They glanced one last time at Bailey Hongzhuang as they ran away, making sure that she wasn't chasing after them. Their terror of Bailey Hongzhuang was already to the extreme. So weak and wanting to take advantage of Master. Humph! How brazen! Little Black cursed angrily. Little White curled its lips. This kind of guy can only bully others, just ignore him. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly smiled. These kind of people weren't something she needed to care about. Suddenly, an auntie approached Bailey Hongzhuang and warned her, Miss, Huang Jiqing has a very strong person behind him. Now that you've beaten him, that person won't let you off. You have to leave quickly. The rest of the crowd all nodded. Miss, leave quickly. No matter what, you mustn't stay here. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't the least bit surprised. For a weakling like Huang Jiqing to dare to harass girls in broad daylight, he must have had a strong background or family behind him. Otherwise, nobody would want to be just pushed around. Chapter 211. Thank you all for warning me. I'll leave right away. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Although she didn't care about Huang Jiqing, if she continued to stay here, it could end up impacting the people on the streets. Besides, a bug like that simply wasn't worth wasting her time for. She mounted her horse. The sunset cast a red glow on Bailey Hongzhuang's body, dyeing her a beautiful shade of rose, making her delicate face even more beautiful. Bailey Hongzhuang urged her horse forwards, leaving Fenglin City. When Huang Jiqing got home, the first thing he did was assemble a group of men for revenge. It was always him bullying others, never others bullying him. No matter what, he couldn't just let it go. But by the time he returned, Bailey Hongzhuang was already gone. His face immediately turned very ugly. No matter how or what, he needed to catch that woman and show her his strength. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly went forward. Azure Water School wasn't too far away now. If they kept up this pace, they'd be able to reach it in 7 days. Night slowly descended. Mountains and forests were always a bit eerie in the night. Anything could happen. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the huge valley in front of her, a small frown on her face. This place. The road was encircled by canyons, barely leaving a single channel to get through. If a person went in, then as long as someone was surrounded on both ends, there was no way for that person to leave. This kind of place was ideal for robberies. A passage like this is something bandits yearn for even in their dreams. If we want to go through, it looks like trouble is unavoidable. Little White analyzed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head slightly, but we'll have to go through some time or another. Since we're here, let's just do it. It could be a blessing or a disaster. If it was a disaster, they'd just have to avoid it. If this place really did have bandits, she'd have to encounter them no matter if it was day or night. Master, you have us, the two black and white fiends. Mountain bandits aren't anything you need to worry about. Little Black patted its chest proudly. With their strength, even if there were bandits, they'd be nothing. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a smile. Although she hadn't seen Little Black and Little White's strength herself, from the two's tone, they should both be very strong. Then I'll be depending on you too. Bailey Hongzhuang grinned. No problem. The two fluffballs chortled. Ta-ta-ta. The horse's hooves were especially clear in the still silence, but Bailey Hongzhuang just continued forward. Suddenly there was a loud noise about 200 meters away. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows. Did something happen ahead? Slowly urging her horse forward, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly started to see what happened. Two men were riding on horses, facing a wave of bandits that blocked their way. Right now, the mountain bandits' leader was shouting at them. Give us all your money and we'll let you go. The bandits' leader looked greedily at the embroidered robes the two men wore. He knew that these two couldn't be ordinary. They must have a lot of treasures. You think you can rob us just because you have this mob with you? The warm alcoholic voice was tinged with laughter. Even though he was surrounded by bandits, he wasn't the least bit worried. The man wore a white embroidered robe, his face smart and clear like a pale-faced scholar. His peach eyes blinked, graceful yet bewitching. Chapter 212. The brigade leader's face turned gloomy. So it looks like you won't cooperate? Speak less nonsense. Die. The black-robed man's expression was the same the whole time. He didn't say anything else, as if talking with bandits was only wasting his time. Hey, looks like Gong Shaoqing's impatient already. The white-robed man teased laughingly. You two mad youngsters, I'll show you us bandits' strength. The bandit leader shouted furiously. Ta-da-da! The horse steps slowly grew clearer, alarming the bandit leader and the two men. Everyone couldn't help but turn their heads only to see a white-dressed lady on a horse, slowly approaching them. The bandit leader looked at the faraway woman, his eyes bright. His face seemed as if he was about to drool. There's still another one. They watched as a woman slowly neared them on a horse. Her dress drifted alongside the wind as if it was in a dream. Even though she was a bit far away, they could still see her graceful bearing and stunning face, capable of ruining a country. A glance was simply unforgettable. Dongfang Yu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang astonished. His eyes that were bright like stars had a trace of interest in them. Usually, when women see such a situation, they would immediately run away. Why is this one just continuing to come? In the end, was she 100% confident or scared stupid? We aren't together with her. Dongfang Yu stated. The bandit chief smiled coldly. You think you could trick me? Don't take me for a fool. These three people were all riding on a horse, not to mention that the woman came here alone. Of course they wouldn't believe it. Come, let's kill them. The bandit leader waved as all the bandits charged. Bailey Hongzhuang also understood the situation now, but she ignored the brigade in front of her and instead focused on the heavy footsteps behind her. If she was right, that should be Huang Jiqing and his men. She actually didn't expect that Huang Jiqing would be so persistent. She was already far from Fenglin City, but he still chased her all the way here. Since there was a battle both in front and behind her, it's better to face the easier one. Very quickly, Dongfang Yu and that other man also noticed the footsteps. They couldn't help but feel a burst of suspicion. I didn't expect that these mountain thieves knew how to do pincer attacks. Dongfang Yu smiled frivolously. The bandit chief was also startled. Something's wrong with this, All the men under his control were already here, so how could more people appear? Damn it, don't tell him that another bandit group came to steal the prize? No matter. We'll just strike first and gain the upper hand. The bandit leader didn't care, leading his bandits to charge at Bailey Hongzhuang and the two men. Meanwhile had also just rushed over with his men. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, he immediately shouted, "Kill her!" Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. Last time she had let Huang Jiqing off, but now he was still making trouble. So this time she doesn't mind taking care of him herself. But Huang Jiqing's men hadn't even gotten close to Bailey Hongzhuang before they were attacked by a wave of mountain bandits. Right now, the bandits were all looking at Huang Jiqing with an ominous glint in their eyes. To them, this place was their source of everything. If you cut off a person's resources, it'd be the same as killing their parents. They wouldn't be able to survive. They've lived in the canyon for many, many years. Now that another group dared to covet their spot, if they didn't teach them a lesson now, what would they do? Huang Jiqing was completely stunned. Before he could understand what was happening, he and his men were already attacked. Seeing Huang Jiqing's surprise, a smile appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Now this was really getting interesting. Who are you guys attacking, Huang Jiqing shouted. The bandit chief replied coldly, "The ones we're attacking are you." Bang! 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 Fighting broke out in the canyon. Bailey Hongzhuang was part of the battle. Dongfang Yu and Gong Shaoqing also attacked. The bandits seemed to be like sheep for slaughter. Each time they passed by, another one would be killed. Seeing the two's strength, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that they've reached the mysterious heaven border. The two seemed around 16 or 17. Achieving mysterious heaven cultivation at such a young age, compared to Dai Zhiman, they were much more talented. The bandit leader's face slowly changed. He also didn't expect that the two men that looked like had more money than sense would be so strong. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang sent the bandits flying with a bang as she slowly walked towards Huang Jiqing. It seems like my earlier lesson wasn't enough for you. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips raised, her eyes turning cold. She was dealing with the bandits on one side and provoking Huang Jiqing on the other. You dared to offend me, I won't let you off, Huang Jiqing said angrily. He wanted to teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson, but he couldn't even get close to her, and could only helplessly watch as other people attacked him. Why are you guys attacking us? The mountain bandits glanced at Huang Jiqing, their faces turning all the more fierce. You guys came to steal our territory and now you're actually asking us why? Stupid. Young master, these are mountain bandits. One of the men called out to Huang Jiqing. Huang Jiqing finally understood and looked at the nearby Bailey Hongzhuang. His heart secretly a bit emotional. This woman is truly out of luck. Right after he had set out for revenge, she already managed to get herself besieged by bandits? I didn't come to fight for your territory, I came to get that woman, Huang Jiqing explained. Although he actually brought a lot of men, it was still far less than the number of bandits. If he fought with them, he also wouldn't leave unharmed. So he could only reluctantly explain. But the mountain bandits only sneered at Huang Jiqing's words. Your words are so random. Did you actually think that we'd believe you? The bandits looked at Huang Jiqing loathingly. How stupid of him. Thinking that he could fool them with such an obvious trick. Brothers beat them to death. The mountain bandits roared, directly charging at Huang Jiqing and his men. Originally they were only going to rob those three, but since now another group appeared, he might as well plunder them as well. It was also a good way to make it clear that daring to try and steal their territory, they needed to pay a price. Bang bang bang. Sounds of punching and kicking filled the air. Before Huang Jiqing could speak anymore, the other side had already attacked. Huang Jiqing's group guarded him carefully. Their strength was just a bit better than the mountain bandits, so even though there were far more bandits, they were still able to fend them off. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into an indistinct smile, her eyes glaring coldly at Huang Jiqing. She continued to sweep the men away as she slowly approached Huang Jiqing. Young Master Huang, I didn't expect to see you again, Bailey Hongzhuang said mockingly. Huang Jiqing gnashed his teeth at Bailey Hongzhuang. Damned woman, you think provoking these bandits would force me to let you go? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled in my opinion. Those hired thugs of yours already have their hands full just dealing with these bandits. Do you really think that they could handle me on top of that? Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Huang Jiqing looked around him and the bandits. They really couldn't deal with Bailey Hongzhuang like this. Since you wanted to teach me a lesson, I'll give you a chance. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile widened. Suddenly Bailey Hongzhuang leaped into the air, her figure high in the sky. In just a few short moments in the air, Bailey Hongzhuang had already grabbed Huang Jiqing and thrown him right on top of his men. Thump! Huang Jiqing fell heavily on the floor, bringing about a cloud of dust. Cough! Huang Jiqing coughed painfully. His body was just thrown on the ground, aching with pain. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly faced Huang Jiqing, her clear, bright eyes shining with cold light. Watching Bailey Hongzhuang easily take down Huang Jiqing, the bandits knew that she wasn't easy to handle, and instead continued to attack even more intensely at the hired thugs. Huang Jiqing's face was filled with panic. Bailey Hongzhuang's earlier lesson was still very vivid in his mind. With his strength, he simply wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang's opponent. Men, come here! Huang Jiqing immediately yelled. The not-so-far-away group of hired thugs finally saw what happened and immediately broke through layers and layers of bandits to reach him. But there were just too many bandits. Even though they wanted to go help, there was simply no way. Young master, we can't get there. One man yelled helplessly. Huang Jiqing's face turned pale. He originally thought that the group of men he had brought would be more than enough to teach Bailey Hongzhuang a lesson, but he didn't expect that he'd be caught in her plan and fall into such an awkward situation. Just as Dong Fangyu had said, the bandits truly were all just a mob in front of him. The bandits fell with every move Dong Fangyu and Gong Shaoqing made. The bandits simply weren't their opponents. Each time the two men struck, it was like a vacuum appeared, leaving nothing but open space. The other bandits lying on the floor were all wounded, howling in grief. Seeing this scene, the mountain bandit leader knew that he never should have provoked them. He was no match for them. Sire, please give mercy. The bandit chief immediately begged for forgiveness. Dong Fangyu slowly glanced at the bandit leader and didn't speak, instead turning back to look engrossingly at Bailey Hongzhuang. From the beginning, this woman was never looking for trouble or shock stupid, but instead just used the bandits as an opportunity to deal with her pursuers. Her appearance was outstanding. Even though he had seen many beauties before, he still couldn't help but sigh when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang. Her delicate and exquisite face seemed like a beautiful work of art, without the slightest flaw. From no matter which angle you looked at, you could only see a world-stopping beauty. The most unique thing was her unearthly temperament. It was unforgettable with a single glance. For such a beautiful woman dare to go out alone at night, her strength shouldn't be bad. Plus, her intelligence and clever mind had already been clearly shown. Gong Shaoqing, isn't that woman interesting? Dong Fangyu turned, asking teasingly. Gong Shaoqing's face was still like an unchanging 10,000-year-old iceberg's. He glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang, his face cold and indifferent. And what business do I have with her? Dong Fangyu helplessly shook his head. Gong Shaoqing, you really no fun at all. Chapter 215. There's a lot of troublesome things in the world. If you become like me, your cultivation would be far faster. Gong Shaoqing's voice was cold and detached. Hearing his words, Dong Fangyu curled his lips. Strength is only for a good, carefree life. I definitely don't want to become like you, who only knows how to cultivate. To repay gratitude and enmity, to live as he wants in the mortal world. That was the kind of life he desired. Bailey Hongzhuang stepped on Huang Jiqing's chest. A bewitching smile on her clear, beautiful face. You wanted to teach me a lesson? Her gentle and soft voice seemed just like a lover's whispers, but yet Huang Jiqing's face was filled with panic. You. Me. Huang Jiqing opened his mouth to explain, but the words he had said earlier were very clear. His explanation was completely useless. Since you said you would send me to heaven, what do you say I should do to you? Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was beautiful and alluring, but the coldness in her phoenix eyes only grew more and more. You, what are you doing? Huang Jiqing's face was ashen as he asked tentatively. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes, a sharp look flitting past her pupils. If somebody offends me, it's best to destroy the root. Originally, the hatred between her and Huang Jiqing wasn't very deep. Just teaching him a lesson was enough. But Huang Jiqing was single-minded, even continuing to demand to teach her a lesson. So naturally, she wouldn't let Huang Jiqing go again. Hearing her words, Huang Jiqing's face was filled with terror. "You mustn't kill me. Who are you to me?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. "If I want to kill, then I'll kill." Her voice dropped. Bailey Hongzhuang's sword rested on Huang Jiqing's body, causing him to scream. "I'm begging you, let me off. I won't ever dare to do it again." At the same time, Huang Jiqing's men were all beaten under the bandits' siege. All the wealth they had were already robbed away. The bandit leader looked at the unclear situation and helplessly shook his head. They were already defeated, but those bandits over there were just looting other people. How did he raise such idiots? Just as the bandit leader was about to call them, Dong Fengyu suddenly spoke up. "Wait." Hearing him speak, the bandit leader immediately shut up. "As young sire commands, let's watch the play. There's no need," and hastily. Dong Fengyu said smilingly. The bandit leader was startled. Their life and death battle in their eyes had turned into a play. But the other party's strength was too strong. They could only obey obediently. Bailey Honghang ignored Huang Jiman, the tip of her sword drawing blood. "Quickly, save me." Huang Jiqing's scream like a pig being slaughtered attracted everyone's attention. When his men saw Huang Jiqing in crisis, their faces changed completely. Their assignment was to protect Huang Jiqing. If Huang Jiqing died, it'd be impossible for them to continue living. Thinking up to here, they completely burst out. If before they were only fighting with punches and kicks, now they were truly fighting and killing like their lives depended on it. Ding ding ding. Sounds of jingling gold and iron rang in the air. Their sudden desperate attacks startled the bandits. But that only made the bandits even more ruthless. They were fighting for their homes. What things didn't they see? Their amount of blood that tainted their hands absolutely weren't few. Watching this battle as people placed their lives on the line, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't anxious, just continuing to wear a smile on her face as she looked at the two sides fight. Chapter 216. Huang Jiqing let out a sigh of relief, but as he watched Bailey Hongzhuang continue to sway her sword, his heart couldn't help but be nervous. If Bailey Hongzhuang forgot and moved the sharp tip of her sword, he would cease to exist. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes moved, falling onto Dong Fengyu and Gong Shaoqing's body. From the beginning, she already noticed the bandit leader had surrendered. Against Dong Fengyu and Gong Shaoqing's strength, it was no surprise for him to do so. But those people didn't stop the bandits here, and instead let them continue to deal with Huang Jiqing's men. It really was a bit strange. Sensing Bailey Hongzhuang's stare, Dong Fengyu's lips rose into a smile, nodding at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded in response. Whatever they're doing is just to watch a good show. At the very least, they didn't have malicious intentions. For her, that was enough. In a flash, the ground was already littered with corpses. There were mountain bandits and Huang Jiqing's hired men. When the bandits saw the land thieves kill their brothers, they grew even more angry, directly hiking up to attack. The hired men were already completely drained. Facing the unending cycle of bandits, they were powerless. Finally, under the mountain bandits' attacks, they all died. At this moment, the bandit leader shouted, "We're going." The bandits there finally paid attention to the other side of the battle. Before, their eyes were filled with red and had no idea what happened on the other side. Although they didn't know why they were going, since their boss ordered it, they could only obey. After the mountain bandits' speedy departure, Bailey Honghang finally turned to look at Huang Jiqing. "It seems that those men you brought were no use," Bailey Honghang said smilingly. Huang Jiqing's face was extremely ugly, his heart filled with matchless regret. If he had known earlier that it'd be like this, he would have just stayed at home and sulked. Now it doesn't look like he could even keep his life. "Master, spare this one's life. I won't ever dare to do it again." Huang Jiqing continued to beg for forgiveness. "If you release me, I'll give you everything I own." Bailey Hongzhuang raised a brow, no change on her indifferent face. She simply wasn't interested in Huang Jiqing's belongings. This kind of guy should have long been sent to hell. But before Bailey Hongzhuang could move, a throwing knife suddenly flew in front of her, landing accurately on Huang Jiqing's heart. Huang Jiqing's eyes were opened wide as if he couldn't believe that he had died, and even more was unable to believe that his life was ended by a stranger. Noisy! A cold and impatient voice suddenly echoed. This man actually killed Huang Jiqing just because he thought he was too noisy. But it was a pity that Huang Jiqing couldn't hear it at all. Otherwise, he definitely would have spat out at least 3 liters of blood. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at the black-robed figure. The one who threw the throwing knife just now was this guy. Idiot woman. Gong Shaoqing spat coldly. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Gong Shaoqing, frowning. You're talking to me? From her past life to now, nobody had ever dared to call her an idiot. And Gong Shaoqing only grunted, as if speaking would only be a waste of words. That really wasn't polite, Bailey Hongzhuang said coldly. Dongfang Yu looked at the spark starting to fly up between the two and spoke up. I'm called Dongfang Yu and this fellow here is Gong Shaoqing. What can we call Mrs.? Chapter 217. Bailey Hongzhuang inspected Gong Shaoqing. His body was like jade and his face was similar to a god's. The most enchanting were his 2 peach blossom eyes, flirtatious and graceful. With just a look it was clear that many women adored him. My name is Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang answered. Although she didn't have any good opinions about the black-robed man, the white-robed man had indirectly helped her earlier, so she also had no malice against him. So it's Miss Bailey. Dongfang Yu's smile was gentle. I'm very honored to get to know you. Dongfang, let's go. Gong Shaoqing only left a few words before taking the lead to mount his horse and leave. Gong Shaoqing. Dongfang Yu shouted, but Gong Shaoqing didn't even look back, continuing to go. Seeing that, Dongfang Yu felt a burst of helplessness. Gong Shaoqing was always no fun. Dongfang Yu turned, a brilliant smile on his face. Miss Bailey, we have an important matter to attend to, so we must leave early. Someday we'll be brought together by fate. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly nodded. Goodbye then. How could she not understand that? That so-called important matter was only an excuse he made up, but she also didn't want to have contacts with him and Gong Shaoqing. The two of them were only strangers coming together by chance, so separating like this was excellent for her. After Gong Shaoqing and Dongfang Yu left, Bailey Hongzhuang also rode her horse forward. Azure Water School was only a few days away now. Arriving earlier would be quite good. Dongfang Yu quickly caught up to Gong Shaoqing. Hey Gong Shaoqing, you really gave no face. The school's new student enrollment will start soon, and the teachers wanted us to prepare in advance. Do you want to arrive late? Gong Shaoqing asked rhetorically. Hearing his words, Dongfang Yu's face changed a bit. This was the first time the two were in charge of helping the teachers with the entrance test. If they arrived late, their punishment wouldn't be light. Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang rode along the path to Azure Water School but found out that the two earlier weren't far in front of her. She pondered. Those two should be Azure Water School's students. Master, those two are pretty strong. They shouldn't be new students. Little Black analyzed. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly nodded her head. They should be old students of Azure Water School. Earlier when the two were fighting hand-to-hand with the mountain bandits, she could already see their strength. With such strength they truly were geniuses. Azure Water School was worthy of its fame. Inside there was truly no lack of talents. Dongfang Yu looked at the not far, not close Bailey Hongzhuang trailing behind them, surprise on his clear and handsome face. Miss Bailey's path is actually the same as ours. Gong Shaoqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, cold and disdainful. You always attracting these sort of stalker women. Dongfang Yu touched his forehead, awkwardly smiling. I think Miss Bailey just happened to go the same way as us this time. Dongfang Yu's strength and beauty attracted love from all kinds of unnormal women. Some women were even unwilling to give up, and even followed behind Dongfang Yu. Gong Shaoqing had already seen a lot of women like that. Gong Shaoqing sneered. He moved his hand, stopping his horse to wait for Bailey Hongzhuang to catch up. Bailey Hongzhuang saw the two suddenly stop and was a bit confused. But she didn't have anything to do with them, so she just continued forward. The instant Bailey Hongzhuang passed by the two, Gong Shaoqing spoke up, Stupid woman, even if you follow us it's no use. Chapter 218. Hearing him speak, Bailey Hongzhuang raised a brow, a sneer on her face. Idiot! I was never interested in following you guys. Words spoken. Bailey Hongzhuang continued to ride forward on her horse. Her deep, shining phoenix eyes were filled with disdain. Ta-ta-ta. The beauty continued to ride, leaving behind a delicate fragrance. Idiot! Gong Xiaoqing was startled, his mind completely occupied on how Bailey Hongzhuang had called him an idiot. That woman actually dared to call him an idiot? Dongfang Yu was also startled by Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. After he finally reacted, his fresh and elegant, handsome face beamed with a brilliant smile. Ahaha, idiot! Dongfang Yu held his belly in laughter. Gong Xiaoqing, I've known you for so many years and this is the first time I heard a woman call you an idiot. Gong Xiaoqing's face was dark. That stupid woman daring to call him an idiot. A crack was finally made on his 10,000-year-old iceberg face. Although the change wasn't really a good one, Dongfang Yu was still extremely happy. That Miss Bailey is really quite the personality. Gong Xiaoqing's detached eyes glanced at Dongfang Yu and no longer spoke, continuing to ride his horse forward. Gong Xiaoqing and Dongfang Yu originally still didn't believe Bailey Hongzhuang's words. After all, many women felt embarrassed to be caught. But when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang continuing to ride ahead, and moreover in the exact same direction as them, they were thoroughly convinced. So Miss Bailey was going to Azure Water School from the beginning? Dongfang Yu smiled gently. It was rare to run into such an interesting woman, so it'd really be a pity to separate so quickly. But since Bailey Hongzhuang seems to be going to Azure Water School, it was very likely that she'd become their junior sister. Dongfang Yu looked at the 10,000-year-old iceberg beside him. Perhaps then when the time comes, he would be able to see a very interesting show. Azure Water School was located in a mountain range. At first it was very desolate and the only thing there was Azure Water School. But for the past many years with Azure Water School as the core, it had already developed into a city. Azure Water City. Azure Water City was very prosperous. Most of Azure Water School's students had very impressive backgrounds. After all, many cultivators needed resources to turn into successful talents. Inside the city it could be said to have everything. Cultivation resources were especially abundant here. When Bailey Hongzhuang entered, the city was bustling with noise and excitement, not losing to the imperial capital in the least. The only difference was walking here. Almost all the residents were cultivators with strength and power. Even small merchants and business owners were cultivators. Although they weren't very talented compared to other places, their strength was definitely far better. Azure Water School's influence stretched across the entire city. Not a single person wasn't a cultivator. It was 3 days until the enrollment began. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. It looked like she could only try to find an inn to live in until the day came. Sweeping a glance over her surroundings, Bailey Hongzhuang headed for an Azure Water Inn. After Dongfang Yu saw Bailey Hongzhuang go to the guest house, the corners of his mouth rose into a faint smile. Gong Xiaoqing, we should go report to the teachers now. Gong Xiaoqing nodded slightly. The two urged their horses forward, going straight into Azure Water School. Bailey Hongzhuang also saw the two moving, the tip of her brow raising. It seemed that her judgment was correct. The instant Bailey Hongzhuang entered the inn, everybody fell quiet. Chapter 219. Everybody turned to stare at Bailey Hongzhuang. Right now the Azure Water Inn was very lively. All the students testing for Azure Water School would come here to an inn to wait for the exam to begin. Therefore, almost all the people who came to Azure Water City were cultivators wanting to participate in the test. Azure Water School's enrollment had a limited quota, so every one of the cultivators was likely to be each other's opponents. In this short time, some of them were very powerful. The most likely to pass cultivators were very well known. So when they saw another strange face enter, it was only natural everyone paid attention. But when everybody saw Bailey Hongzhuang's stunning appearance, their faces all revealed surprise and admiration. My goodness, I never expected this time. There would be such a beautiful woman testing for Azure Water School. I heard Azure Water School's #1 beauty was Lu Qingyue. That girl shouldn't be her, right? I was fortunate enough to see Lu Qingyue a few days ago, and although this woman isn't Lin Qingyue, her beauty doesn't lose out to Lin Qingyue's in the least. All the men's faces changed to reveal adoration. Such a beautiful woman was truly a sight for their eyes. "Miss, will you be eating or staying?" a waiter asked, smiling politely. "Staying. Miss is very lucky. Recently there were many customers and our inn only had one room left. We'll book the room for you." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head. She also paid a bit of attention. Right now, Azure Water City's inns were all flourishing with business. Managing to find a room on the first try was already very lucky. 100 gold coins her night. How many nights might Miss be staying? The waiter inquired. 3 nights. 1 night 100 coins. The price was considered to be extremely expensive, but most of the cultivators that came had fairly impressive backgrounds. 300 gold coins weren't much at all. Okay. At this moment, a green-dressed woman surrounded by guards suddenly entered the inn. "Set up 5 rooms for me," the woman interrupted. Hearing her, the waiter's face was apologetic as he answered, "Miss, we're truly sorry but our inn is already full." The lady frowned. "It's full?" The waiter nodded again and again. "All the rooms are already booked. Maybe it's better for Miss to ask another inn?" Tong Xingyi's mood wasn't very good. She had rushed all the way to Azure Water City and only finally gotten a chance to rest. But now there were actually no rooms for her? Glancing around, Tong Xingyi spotted Bailey Hongzhuang's hand holding a room door key. What about her? "This lady came early and booked the last room," the waiter explained. Bailey Hongzhuang held the room door key and prepared to leave. She had been running around the entire night and really wanted to take a bath and freshen up a bit. But just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to leave, Tong Xingyi suddenly spoke. "I'll give you 600 coins, so give me that room." She didn't care where the guards would stay. Right now, she was only thinking about herself. Not interested. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold. That woman's words were filled with contempt and were arrogant based on her identity. It was exactly the kind that she didn't like. 600 gold coins? She simply didn't care. The other cultivators eating also paid attention to what was happening. 600 gold coins, it was exactly double the amount. It seemed that the green-dressed lady's background was quite powerful. Chapter 220. Bailey Hongzhuang's reaction was completely in everybody's expectations. All of them were cultivators. If they yielded to Tong Xingyi just for 600 gold coins, they'd really be too cowardly. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang refuse without the slightest hesitation, Tong Xingyi's face was filled with displeasure. 1,000 gold coins. Bailey Hongzhuang continued to walk forward without stopping once. 2,000 gold coins. 3,000 gold coins. Every step Bailey Hongzhuang walked, Tong Xingyi raised the price higher and higher. Seeing her raise the price by so much, everyone's faces turned a bit surprised. 3,000 gold coins. Even for them it wasn't a small number. 5,000 gold coins. From the beginning to end, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't the least bit moved. Suddenly Tong Xingyi rushed up and grabbed Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, her beautiful face a bit angry. "Behave with integrity, a person cannot be too greedy." Bailey Hongzhuang brushed her hand off her shoulder and slowly turned around, her delicate, stunning face cold. "I said, no matter the price, that I'm not interested." Her cold and beautiful voice held an unquestionable aggressiveness as Bailey Hongzhuang emphasized her words. Clearly, Tong Xingyi's actions had made her a bit angry. But Tong Xingyi still didn't seem to understand, still continuing to act selfishly. 5,000 gold coins, that's my limit. The surrounding cultivators watched the scene, their eyes revealing a hint of greed. 5,000 gold coins for only a 3-night stay. Without a place to stay, cultivators would at most just have to stay under a tree for the night, but with their strength it hardly mattered. At this moment, a man approached Tong Xingyi. "How about I give you my room for 5,000 gold coins?" Having those gold coins were enough for him to buy a lot of resources for his cultivation. Tong Xingyi glanced at the man, her voice cold. "No, I only want hers." In front of so many people, that woman gave her no face. She needed that woman to regret it. Now it wasn't just a problem about the rooms, but a problem of her, Tong Xingyi's face. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. This woman was simply too unreasonable. The man helplessly returned to his seat. Seeing this, the other people secretly started to talk. The two are arguing, haha, trying to one-up each other. How interesting. If it was me, I would definitely agree for 5,000 gold coins. It's only a room. 5,000 gold coins are worth a lot more. You're wrong. This woman is so arrogant. If you just directly give her the room, won't you be losing face? I'll give you 5,000 gold coins if you stop bothering me. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were cold. She was only a newcomer and didn't want to provoke too much trouble. The next moment everybody was stunned. A pile of lustrous gold coins was left on the front desk. And Bailey Hongzhuang had already gone up the stairs. Such a scene dazzled the eyes of everyone present on the scene. You 5,000 gold coins, just for Tong Xingyi to stop bothering her. Before, they thought that Tong Xingyi was wealthy, but now it turned out that the white-dressed woman was the real rich one. It was no wonder why whenever Tong Xingyi raised the price, she didn't react at all. From the beginning, she had never even put that small amount of money into her eyes. Tong Xingyi was also startled by Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. She didn't expect for that woman to do such a thing. Chapter 221. Sensing everyone's mood change, she felt as if a loud slap had just hit her face. She had thought that white-dressed woman was only refusing to get an even higher price, but now it seemed that she was wrong. Don't think of me as a beggar. Tong Xingyi shouted. Take your money back. Ting ting. Tong Xingyi in passing had pushed the coin bag off the table, causing the gold coins to fall to the floor, issuing a crisp tinkling sound. So following your words, does that mean you thought of me as a beggar earlier? Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold and gloomy. Her patience was wearing thin. Bailey Hongzhuang's stare was sharp and piercing as she looked at Tong Xingyi coldly, her aura erupting from her body. Tong Xingyi was startled. This was the first time she had met somebody the same age as her with such a sharp gaze. It was as if she could completely see through her, causing her to lose the courage to respond. The surrounding cultivators had also sensed Bailey Hongzhuang's penetrating stare. In that moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's image in their hearts had suddenly changed. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's word that seemed to sound like a question, Tong Xingyi actually had no words to respond. Before, she really did think Bailey Hongzhuang was just somebody trying to get more money. Tong Xingyi turned to look around at the guards beside her. Her fear quickly vanished, once again turning proud and arrogant. Even if she did treat Bailey Hongzhuang like a beggar, so what? Don't tell her that Bailey Hongzhuang would try to hurt her? I did in fact think of you like that. Anyways, give the room to me. If you don't, you'll still have to in the end. Tong Xingyi raised her chin haughty, an arrogant and willful air appearing from her body. Facing Tong Xingyi's rudeness, Bailey Hongzhuang had gotten truly angry. In this world there were always people who had no eyes. Who do you think you are? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows coldly. Her pupils, deep like a quiet pool, blossomed with brilliant lights. Daring to order me into giving you my room, look at yourself first. You are unworthy. Bang! Her voice falling, Bailey Hongzhuang slapped the table. It groaned and collapsed, turning into small mountains of sawdust. Everybody was startled. The white-skirted woman from beginning to end had acted with excellent mannerisms, but after Tong Xingyi's endless pestering, she finally exploded. From the white-skirted lady's actions, they realized that she wasn't afraid of Tong Xingyi, but rather, just too lazy to deal with her. The sudden movement caused Tong Xingyi to retreat a few steps back before sneering. Is that bit of strength amazing? Who in Azure Water City doesn't have that power? Do you think I can't do that? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips widened into a teasing smile, but her voice was cold like ice. If you have the guts, come. 6 simple words, but it was enough to make their hearts shiver. This was a true domineering aura. Seeing this scene, everybody looked at each other. It seems like this time Tong Xingyi had kicked an iron plate. This white-skirted lady absolutely wasn't one to be provoked. At this time, a satirizing voice suddenly echoed in the room. I was wondering who was so unreasonable. So it's actually the Tong family's Tong Xingyi. Under everyone's eyes, a purple-skirted lady slowly walked in. Seeing this woman, everyone was stunned. Although this woman's face wasn't particularly outstanding, her figure. Bailey Hongzhuang was also a bit stunned. She had to say this woman's appearance was really just too unique. Chapter 222. At their age, It was very rare to see a woman with such a voluptuous body like the one in front of her. Her slim waist was easy to embrace, and those tall, straight, impressive peaks seemed ready to appear at the call with every step she took, attracting everybody's attention. But the woman's face was the same as a cute, young girl's, adorable and delicate. Compared with her hot figure, it formed two entirely different temperaments. It was just like a fusion of ripe and unripe, but a sight hard to forget. Xia Jiqing, what did you come for? Seeing the purple-skirted lady, a trace of displeasure floated onto Tang Xingyi's face. Xia Jiqing smiled frivolously, running her eyes up and down Tang Xingyi's body. I naturally couldn't bear to see some people relying on numbers to bully others. Why? Am I not allowed to do so? How could I care about what you do? Just seeing you makes me unhappy. How could you want to care? Bailey Hongzhuang watched Xia Jiqing and Tang Xingyi squabble, and immediately knew that the two both held grudges against the other, so it was always like this whenever the two met. Tang Xingyi's face revealed rage. Since you insist on butting in, don't blame me for being impolite. Tang Xingyi waved her hand and the 5 guards behind her immediately strode towards Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing. Let me first. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was cold. Since you're courting death, don't blame me for being impolite. She had already ran out of patience for Tang Xingyi. This kind of woman, if you don't give them a lesson, they'll never understand moderation. Xia Jiqing clearly wasn't afraid. Watching the bodyguards approach, she actually started to roll her sleeves for battle, obviously itching for a fight. Bang bang bang. Sounds of punches and kicks colliding resonated in the inn. Everyone had already forgotten to eat, too focused on watching the show. Bailey Hongzhuang's moves were fast, ruthless and accurate. Each punch left a man lying on the floor. Xia Jiqing's actions were also ruthless. After the two were done, the guards were one by one kicked out of the inn. Now it's your turn. Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Tang Xingyi indifferently. Tang Xingyi was completely shocked. Her guard's strength wasn't weak at all. She hadn't thought that they would be so easily disposed of by Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing. Xia Jiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang astonished. She actually didn't expect for this white-skirted woman's strength to be so powerful. Even her strength was incomparable to Bailey Hongzhuang's. She truly didn't know where such a talented person suddenly popped out from. If you dare to touch one strand of my hair, I'll make you pay the consequences. Looking at the slowly approaching Bailey Hongzhuang, Tang Xingyi hurriedly shouted. In a flash, Bailey Hongzhuang's fist struck out, directly knocking down Tang Xingyi. Her figure seemed as if she was flying, kicking out with her right foot, sending Tang Xingyi flying out of the inn as well. I'll be waiting. Her cold, clear voice didn't have a single trace of worry. Clearly, Tang Xingyi's threat didn't have the least bit use. The weak simply didn't have the qualifications to make the strong fear. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the nearby waiter and then glanced at the spilled gold coins. Treat those gold coins as compensation for the table I broke in the inn. Done speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang directly went up to the second floor to her room. This time nobody barred her way. Originally the waiter was still worried about the broken table, but after Bailey Hongzhuang's words, all his worries disappeared. Chapter 223. This was 5,000 gold coins. Never mind breaking such a little thing. Even if the whole lobby was destroyed, it'd be okay. Xia Jiqing followed after Bailey Hongzhuang, who was walking to the second floor. Miss, wait. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her head. Looking at Xia Jiqing. Is something the matter? The reason why Xia Jiqing had helped just now was that of a personal grudge, so she didn't really care about her. Xia Jiqing exposed a bright and beautiful smile. Hi. I'm called Xia Jiqing. What can I call you, my friend? Looking into Xia Jiqing's sincere eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head slightly. Bailey Hongzhuang. I'm very happy to meet you. Xia Jiqing smiled brilliantly. The way you handle things is truly to my liking. Let's get along in the future. Hearing her words, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips also widened into a smile. This Xia Jiqing's strength was very strong but lacked thinking in depth. But Xia Jiqing was also to her liking. Okay. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang agree, Xia Jiqing's smile grew even happier. But then her smile suddenly dropped. These days, Azure Water City's inns are incredibly busy. I was a step late, and now all the rooms are full. I and some other cultivators are going to go rest under a tree. I'll try to find you on the assessment day. Upon seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang spoke up. Since it's like this, it'd be better to live with me. Although the room isn't very big, it's still better than sitting under the tree. Dai Jiqing's eyes lit up, immediately waving her hands as she replied, No, that'll bother you too much. It doesn't matter to me. Anyways, my skin is thick, so I'm not worried. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile slowly got bigger. With Xia Jiqing's voluptuous figure, who knew how much trouble she'll get from the other cultivators? Living outside would be truly troublesome for her. Since you're a friend, it's naturally not a bother. Living together, it is. Between her previous life and this life, she had met a lot of people. She could see through Xia Jiqing's true nature right away. So she wasn't at all worried that Xia Jiqing had any other intentions. Then I'll be troubling you, Xia Jiqing said gratefully. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. Not at all. Xia Jiqing and Bailey Hongzhuang went into the room. Xia Jiqing's personality was very lively, and asked Bailey Hongzhuang if she wanted to walk around the city with her. But Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't interested. For the past few days she was constantly on the move. Right now, she only wanted to cultivate peacefully in the room. Xia Jiqing didn't force Bailey Hongzhuang. Going to explore the city alone. After waiting for Xia Jiqing to leave, Little Black and Little White's enlarged Ned bodies sat in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Master, we don't know this Xia Jiqing. Isn't it dangerous to live with her like this? Little White asked. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly shook her head. Xia Jiqing is just an inexperienced young girl. Her character is very pure, so you don't have to worry. Little Black and Little White looked at each other. Since Master said so, they could only listen. Perhaps after passing into the general's household, which was filled with endless plots and conspiracies, her thinking had become even more complicated. She even forgot that now they were only 15-16-year-old youngsters. There was no lack of pure people. Continuing to use that kind of complicated thinking would only increase her worries. So that was why she wanted to be friends with Xia Jiqing. Having such a sincere and true friend, she didn't need to overly think about so many complicated things. Chapter 224. Bailey Hongzhuang took Baishir out of the primordial chaos ring. While they were hurrying to Azure Water City, Baishir seemed to have gotten a little bigger. She took out another demonic core for Baishir. The little guy had an astonishing appetite, and every day he would eat one core. She already didn't have many cores left, and now needed to find a chance to get some more demonic cores. Otherwise, if he didn't have anything to eat, he would become very clingy. She also gave some food to Little Black and Little White. Since she and Xia Jiqing were now living together, it wasn't good for the two fluffballs to reveal themselves. As such, they could only stay inside the primordial chaos ring with Baishir. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. After living together for 3 days, Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing's relationship became a lot more familiar. Now they were quite close to each other. During this time, more and more cultivators came to Azure Water City. Some cultivators even came not to take part, but just to watch the show. After all, this was the school all cultivators yearned to join even in their dreams. Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing left the inn early in the morning. When they arrived at Azure Water School's gates, there were already several hundred people forming a long line. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Azure Water School's entrance. In the middle of the circular arched gate, a piece of bold cursive calligraphy was hung, full of hidden sharpness. There were only 3 words, Azure Water School. It is said that these words, written by the first-generation principal of Azure Water School, contain some kind of spirit power understanding. On the first glance, everybody would feel a shock. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. From those 3 words alone, it was clear that Azure Water School's founder was very strong. The entrance test starts today. I really don't know what it'll be on. Xia Jiqing's eyes were a bit nervous and excited. Hongzhuang, I hope we can get into Azure Water School together. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. I believe you're strong enough to be accepted by Azure Water School. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing talked, a pleasantly surprised voice came from the line. Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes turned to see as expected. Xiao Zifen waving at Bailey Hongzhuang. Her lucid and elegant, refined face overflowed with a graceful, bewitching smile. Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing walked towards Xiao Zifen. Xianyuan Huan and Zhang Hanyue were also with Xiao Zifan. Zhang Hanyue also smiled, but Xianyuan Huan's face was a bit awkward. Hongzhuang, did you just arrive at Azure Water City? Xiao Zifan asked curiously. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. I got here 3 days ago, and stayed in an inn until today. A trace of astonishment swept past Xiao Zifan's eyes. He remembered that Bailey Hongzhuang had set off even later than they did. We just arrived yesterday night. I didn't expect that you'd actually be even faster than us. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and didn't speak. It wasn't strange at all. Compared to traveling alone, 3 people traveling together naturally had a lot more delays along the road. Azure Water School's entrance test will start in just a few minutes. I'm cheering for you guys. Bailey Hongzhuang grinned. Xiao Zifan nodded. It's very difficult to get this chance. I'll definitely do my best. A cold sneer suddenly interrupted their conversation. Some people really can't see their own qualifications. Merely a middle-staged mysterious earth cultivator and wanting to pass. You're truly overestimating your capabilities. Hearing that familiar voice, Xia Jiqing turned her body in annoyance. Tong Xingyi's face was filled with hatred as she glared at them. Chapter 225. Tong Xingyi, you're just like a vengeful ghost. Still not giving up. Xia Jiqing said coldly. Xia Jiqing's words left no face, directly treating Tong Xingyi as no more but a ghost. In fact, she always found Tong Xingyi somewhere around her, causing a scene. It was truly an irksome presence. Xia Jiqing, did you just call me a vengeful ghost? Tong Xingyi raised her voice. Since young, she and Xia Jiqing were always fighting. However, Xia Jiqing's identity couldn't even begin to be compared with hers. But after they came to Azure Water City, family backgrounds no longer mattered. Xia Jiqing was actually getting more and more audacious. The original peace and quiet were suddenly interrupted, attracting many of the cultivators' attention. The crowd all looked curiously at Tong Xingyi and Xia Jiqing. 2 beauties were arguing, making it a very good show to watch. Xiao Zifan looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, confused. Xia Jiqing and Tong Xingyi seemed to have some kind of grudge against each other, and they were caught in the crossfire. Her eyes that were deep like ancient wells glimmered with a trace of displeasure. Tong Xingyi, don't look for trouble. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was ice cold. Tong Xingyi looked fearfully at Bailey Hongzhuang, and couldn't help but remember what had happened in the inn. Even if it wasn't because of Bailey Hongzhuang, this was the first time she had lost so much face. Thinking up to here, Tong Xingyi gnashed her teeth. Right now, she wasn't Bailey Hongzhuang's opponent. Wait for her strength to grow. Then she'll get her revenge. Until then, Tong Xingyi could only close her mouth. Otherwise, if Bailey Hongzhuang chose to teach her a lesson today on the examination date, she would lose even more face. Seeing Tong Xingyi indignantly shut up, Xia Jiqing's face revealed a proud smile and in her heart, endlessly admired Bailey Hongzhuang. She had to speak so much, but Tong Xingyi still wouldn't shut up. When Bailey Hongzhuang only said a single short sentence, Tong Xingyi had shut up immediately. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her body and the cold look on her face dissipated, replaced by a soft and tender smile. Good luck. I'm sure you guys can pass. Hearing her words, Xiao Zifan nodded, grinning. I'll work hard. Hongzhuang, let's line up now. Xia Jiqing spoke up. In this short time, the line had gotten even longer. If they had lined up earlier, they'd be able to test earlier. Bailey Hongzhuang just smiled. Jiqing, I don't need to line up. You can go line up first. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Tong Xingyi couldn't help but sneer. She must be mad. Who did she think she was, actually thinking she didn't need to line up for Azure Water School's entrance exam? This stupid idiot really doesn't know when to stop bragging. Do you think you have an invitation letter, not needing to line up? Tong Xingyi ridiculed. Xia Jiqing sneered, hello. I just thought you finally shut up, but now you're speaking rubbish again. Speaking so loudly, are you afraid other people won't know how dirty your mouth is? Bailey Hongzhuang mocked. Since Tong Xingyi was looking for trouble, she didn't need to give her any face. Tong Xingyi was startled. What did you say? My mouth is dirty? Other people don't dare to tell you not to interrupt somebody. You have no self-restraint. Bailey Hongzhuang turned her body, refusing to pay attention to the very red Tong Xingyi. and instead spoke to Xia Jiqing. Jiqing, line up first. We'll meet in Azure Water School. Although Xia Jiqing was confused, she didn't ask. She always thought Bailey Hongzhuang was somewhat different from them. Chapter 226. Maybe Bailey Hongzhuang had some kind of special identity, or she really did have an invitation letter to Azure Water School. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're really too much. Tong Xingyi raised her voice. Tell everyone. How can you participate in the examination without lining up? Saying you're a special enrollment student, who will believe that? Everyone's faces changed a little. Special enrollment students were a unique existence in Azure Water School. Azure Water School's special enrollment students' reputations were extremely famous. To be a special enrollment student, they had to be especially talented. Only a talent could become Azure Water School student, so to become Azure Water School's special enrollment student, they needed to be a genius amongst geniuses. She admitted that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength wasn't bad, but she didn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang could possibly be a special enrollment student. Wanting to be Azure Water School's special enrollment student really isn't easy. I heard that this year only 2 people were able to be invited. This woman probably isn't one of them. Right? Which special enrollment student isn't powerful and overbearing? It can't be her. Hearing everyone's words, Tong Xingyi's face revealed a proud smile. 3 days ago, Bailey Hongzhuang had humiliated her and made her lose face in front of everybody. Today, it's Bailey Hongzhuang's turn to be humiliated. Miss Bailey is Azure Water School's special enrollment student though. Zhang Hanyue squeaked out. Xiao Zifan had a crafty smile on and gave Zhang Hanyue a sure gesture. Don't tell them. In a moment we'll see something interesting. Zhang Hanyue immediately understood. A similarly sly smile appearing on her face as well. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked forward. Azure Water School's entrance had 5 channels. Amongst those 5, 4 already had long lines. Only one channel didn't have a single soul in sight, because that particular channel was for special enrollment students only. Tong Xingyi watched Bailey Hongzhuang unexpectedly not fear death and walk straight to the special enrollment channel, her eyes full of ridicule. When Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the channel, she coincidentally saw 2 senior students recording the names of those in the examination. A trace of light swept by her eyes. Miss Bailey, we meet again. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang again, a friendly smile appeared on Dong Fengyu's face. His originally fresh and elegant, handsome face turned even more charming. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded humbly. Yes. In the future we'll see each other a lot. Gong Xiaoqing was standing beside Dong Fengyu so naturally. He saw Bailey Hongzhuang as well. Only, he wasn't as happy as Dong Fengyu to see her. Stupid woman. Line up at the back if you want to partake in the examination. Although his words were harsh calling Bailey Hongzhuang stupid, it was impossible to deny that he was also reminding her as well. Bailey Hongzhuang ignored his words and shot a glance at Gong Xiaoqing. Just seeing this guy completely spoiled her mood. Idiot, I'm a special enrollment student. When her words came out, Dong Fengyu and Gong Xiaoqing were both stunned. They never thought Bailey Hongzhuang would turn out to be a special enrollment student. Miss Bailey, you're one of this year's 2 special enrollment students? Dong Fengyu asked stupefied. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded faintly, correct. At this moment, Gong Xiaoqing didn't even care that Bailey Hongzhuang had called him an idiot. As far as special enrollment students were concerned, they were not at all unfamiliar. That was because he and Dong Fengyu were special enrollment students themselves. Only they never expected for the woman they just coincidentally happened to meet on the road to actually be one of this year's 2 special enrollment students. Tong Xingyi was waiting to watch Bailey Hongzhuang make a fool of herself but didn't think Bailey Hongzhuang would start talking to the 2 male seniors. Chapter 227. That's Senior Dong Fengyu. Senior Dong Fengyu's actually smiling at Bailey Hongzhuang. Who is this Bailey Hongzhuang? Not only Senior Dong Fengyu, but even the always grim and unfeeling Gong Xiaoqing Senior knows Bailey Hongzhuang. I heard that Senior Gong Xiaoqing never cared about others, especially women. Apart from Azure Water School's #1 beauty, Lu Qingyue, who he had one small exchange with, he had always ignored all the other women. What holy power does this Bailey Hongzhuang have? I really envy her. Dongfang Yu's handsome and gentle face. If he was smiling at me, I'd truly be dying happy. Voices of admiration and jealousy sounded in the crowd. Everyone almost even forgot the reason they were here for. Tang Xingyi was also startled. She actually hadn't expected for Bailey Honghang to be so capable, even managing to be friends with Azure Water School's two famed seniors. But even if it was like that, it was still impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to cut in line. Xia Jiqing's eyes widened, her face revealing a huge smile. I knew it, Bailey Hongzhuang really wasn't simple. Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to take the invitation letter out of her space pouch, while actually sneaking it out of the primordial chaos ring. If the space pouch was lost, other people could take away the things inside. But the primordial chaos ring had already recognized her as its master, so even if it fell into someone else's hand, they wouldn't be able to open it. However, the primordial chaos ring was a secret that absolutely couldn't be revealed. Therefore, she had hung an empty space pouch by her waist as a disguise. She pulled out a purple scalded gold invitation letter. With a glance, Dongfang Yu and Gong Xiaoqing could immediately tell that this really was Azure Water School's invitation letter. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo also slowly walked out of the school. This time, Azure Water School altogether had only gotten 2 special enrollment students. They also needed to come welcome them the special enrollment students they had found. Just a step out of the entrance, Lu Huayan and Fu Hongbo immediately noticed Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, that pure white figure amongst a crowd of dirt was truly too eye-catching. It'd be hard not to notice even if they didn't want to. Bailey Hongzhuang, you came. Lu Huayan smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang bowed and performed the courtesy. Hongzhuang seized the 2 teachers. Fu Hongbo helped Bailey Hongzhuang up. The fact that they could see Bailey Hongzhuang here made them very happy. Glancing at her, Fu Hongbo's smile grew even larger. You got even stronger. Bailey Hongzhuang lightly smiled. I broke through by a lucky fluke. Earlier, she already wasn't too far from breaking through to the middle stage of Mysterious Ian. After the fight with Daijimon, she had suddenly came to a realization deep at night and hurriedly successfully broke through to the next stage. Since you've come, you should first go to tidy up your things before looking around your room to see if there's anything you still want to buy. Later, you can also come to watch the examinations as well. Dongfang Yu, lead Bailey Hongzhuang inside. Lu Huayan said. Dongfang Yu nodded. Miss Bailey, follow me. Bailey Hongzhuang once more performed the courtesy before following closely after Dongfang Yu and entering Azure Water School. When Tang Shengyi, who seemed like she was just about to watch a good play, saw this scene, she was completely stupefied. Bailey Hongzhuang actually didn't need to line up and went directly in. Tang Shengyi, did you see? Hongzhuang just walked through the special enrollment channel. Xia Jiqing's face was proud. She wanted to see what Tang Shengyi could say now. After Xia Jiqing's call, many other cultivators took note of this point as well. Special enrollment channel. Only the special enrollment students possessed enough talent to pass. Besides, Bailey Hongzhuang was just personally let in by Dongfang Yu. That alone was already a tremendous gap between her and other cultivators. Chapter 228, that white-dressed girl actually was a special enrollment student. My God, no wonder she seemed so unique. The cultivators that were originally mocking Bailey Honghang had changed sides in the direction of the wind. Special enrollment students were very special extances in Azure Water School. They were people everybody wanted to fawn over and curry favor with. Nobody wanted to offend them. I heard that this year's special enrollment quota was especially small, so the level of special enrollment students should be even higher. Tang Shengyi's face paled. She never thought her luck would be so bad. Altogether, there were only 2 special enrollment students. This random person she had purposely provoked and offended in Azure Water City was actually a special enrollment student? Xia Jiqing smiled brilliantly. She also didn't expect that Bailey Honghang would be a special enrollment student, but no matter that identity Bailey Hongzhuang had, they were still friends. Seeing Xia Jiqing's grin, Tang Shengyi became furious. Xia Jiqing, don't be too proud. I am very proud, what can you do about it? Xia Jiqing didn't care about her, but Tang Shengyi's anger had reached an extreme. Dongfang Yu led Bailey Honghang around Azure Water School. Earlier, She was outside the entrance and couldn't see what was inside. Entering, she found that it really was a magnificent sight inside the school. Many lofty and majestic buildings towered around inside the school. Wide training fields and fighting stages were supplied with everything needed available. It was easy to imagine how the students cultivated and trained every day. Miss Bailey, special enrollment students, and ordinary students live in separate areas. This area is the ordinary students' residences. Dong Fangyu introduced to Bailey Hongzhuang as he pointed at a big, orange-yellow building in front of them. Bailey Hongzhuang's long, shapely eyebrows raised a bit. We live in different areas? Why? Azure Water School's standards for special enrollment students are always very strict. To be a special enrollment student, their strength is bound to be many times above ordinary students. If special enrollment students and ordinary students cultivated together, it would definitely slow down a special enrollment student's speed. So not only do they not live together, special enrollment students don't even cultivate together. Dong Fangyu explained. Bailey Hongzhuang understood somewhat and carefully thought. Azure Water School reason had a point. If two different standards of cultivators cultivated together, there really would be some problems. But if an ordinary student has a very fast cultivation speed, they can also cultivate alongside the special enrollment students. Special enrollment students had their own room to live in alone and most necessities are already prepared. Ordinary students like with a roommate, so they can encourage each other and raise a competitive spirit. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded faintly. I understand. This year, Azure Water School only has 2 new special enrollment students. One is you and the other is called by Junyu. He just came and is in the neighboring room. You can meet him sometime. Under Dong Fangyu's lead, Bailey Hongzhuang became somewhat familiar with Azure Water School's layout. This is Azure Water School's famous cultivation pagoda. Cultivation pagoda? There's a type of enchantment under the cultivation pagoda that attracts spiritual energy, letting cultivators cultivate with half the work and twice the effect. But if you want to cultivate in the cultivation pagoda, you need to collect points and exchange them. Hearing Dong Fangyu's words, Bailey Hongzhuang found that she truly didn't know enough about Azure Water School. It seems like this cultivation pagoda was the fastest possible way for ordinary cultivators to cultivate, and you could only enter by exchanging points. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. It seems like her school life will be very interesting indeed. Chapter 229. Here is our residence, where special enrollment students live. Dong Fangyu pointed at a red building and smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the red construct. From its appearance alone, it seemed somewhat more gorgeous than the ordinary students' residences. Every student's room also seemed very big. There's not a lot of students in special enrollment, so we all live in this building. If you need any help, you can just directly go to the 3rd floor to find me. My name should be on my door. Gong Shaoqing also lives on the 3rd floor, Dong Fangyu said smilingly. Thank you, senior. A brilliant smile as bright as a star lit across Bailey Hongzhuang's grateful face as she gave him her heartfelt thanks. Dong Fangyu's tour was very thorough and complete, saving her a lot of trouble. Bailey Hongzhuang's room was on the 2nd floor. Just as she anticipated, the special enrollment student rooms were very cozy and snug. It could be said to even be luxurious. Above the door to her room hung an awe-inspiringly white wooden board, with 4 characters engraved on it, Bailey Hongzhuang. In the huge room, everything she needed was already prepared. It seemed that somebody had specially cleaned and readied the room for her before she came. Before a new student checked in, everything in the room is exchanged so it's brand new. If you don't like it, you can change it yourself. Dong Fangyu smiled. A smile burst forth on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. There's no need. This room is already arranged very well. This room was already far better than what she expected. For her, who was very used to living in the mountain ranges, this room already made her very pleased. You're satisfied? He looked at the happy smile revealed on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Her refined and touchingly delicate face instantly blossomed with unlimited splendor, a rare and beautiful sight that could not be seen anywhere else. Dong Fangyu could only stare at her foolishly. Although she had seen Bailey Hongzhuang smile before, it was only a polite smile. It was impossible to compare it to the smile he saw now. He had seen many beauties, and he was also very well acquainted with the #1 beauty of Azure Water School. But now, he didn't think any woman could compare to Bailey Honghaung's looks. At this moment a bright and simple, kind voice suddenly sounded. Senior Dongfang. Dongfang Yu was startled before turning to look at the speaker. Bai Junyu. Bailey Hongzhuang turned and saw a man dressed in yellow robes walking out from one of the rooms. On the door hung an impressive white wooden board. 3 large characters engraved on it. The man was tall and his appearance was delicate and pretty, outstandingly handsome. The corner of his mouth curved to form a bright and sunny smile, his grin easily exposing his flawlessly white teeth. Only a glance and Bailey Honghaung could instantly tell that this man's thinking was simple and pure, filled with laughter and sunshine. Bai Junyu, this girl is the other special enrollment student, Bailey Honghaung. Dongfang Yu introduced her before turning to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Miss Bailey? Bailey Honghaung nodded gently. I know. Bai Junyu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. For a split second his face fell stiff. He really didn't expect the other special enrollment student to be such a beauty. This was really good luck. Hi, I am Bai Junyu. It's very nice to meet you. I hope we can get along in the future. Bai Junyu smiled brilliantly, his teeth white enough to reflect light. Bailey Honghaung, very nice to meet you too. In a while, the new student examinations will be conducted. I'm going to go watch. Are you interested in joining me? Bai Junyu was clearly done with his room. If you're interested, how about we watch together? Sure. I'm also ready to watch. Chapter 230. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Xia Jiqing and Xiao Zifan were all taking the examination, so she should go and cheer for them. Seeing the two make plans, Dongfang Yu spoke up. Since it's like this, let's all go together. Bailey Hongzhuang already looked around and accepted her room. There wasn't anything she needed to prepare, so she was all ready to go. The 3 walked to the entrance together. Golden sunshine sprinkled on their bodies, warm and luminous. Miss Bailey, since we're fellow students, can I call you by your name? Bai Junyi asked, smiling. Sure. Bailey Hongzhuang already saw that most of the students in Azure Water School were calling each other by name. Equals because after they came to Azure Water School, they were all students. No matter what identity you held before, none of it mattered here. Where did you come from? I came from Fengbo Country's River City. I came from Fengbo's Imperial City. Bailey Hongzhuang replied. Bai Junyu's eyes lit up. You're from the Imperial City? I never went to the Imperial City before. Is it really lively and busy there? It really is lively, but Azure Water City is just as vibrant. Azure Water School is a lot more lively than my River City. When I first came here, I thought it was the Imperial City. Haha. Bailey Hongzhuang Yu. Dongfang Yu watched Bai Junyu continue to chatter and couldn't help but interrupt. Bai Junyu, we've arrived at the entrance. Bai Junyu heard his words and looked. Oh, we did. It really is lively. Dongfang Yu helplessly shook his head. Everything about Bai Junyu, but he was just too wordy. Luckily, it was him that came with them. If it was Gong Shaoqing, this scene, he simply didn't even dare to imagine it. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were full of smiles. This Bai Junyu was a very characteristic person. Even Dongfang Yu was somewhat soft-hearted against him. However, she could clearly understand why Bai Junyu was Azure Water School's special enrollment student. Usually, these kinds of cultivators had very sharp minds. Whatever they think, they'll say, and won't hide away anything in their heart. Cultivating under such a state actually provide amazing results. But although it's simple in theory, very few cultivators can actually do it. Bai Junyu should have been born with this nature. Azure Water School's new student enrollment exam wasn't complicated at all. First was picking through the cultivator's age and cultivation level, then determining the cultivator's talent. The second part was allowing a cultivator to display one martial skill. It wasn't about if their martial skill was good or bad, but rather their degree of understanding of the martial skill. If the first part was testing the cultivator's potential, displaying their martial skill was testing the cultivator's efforts. For cultivators, talent was important, but effort was even more valuable. The school could use this to see the extent of a cultivator's effort. The third part was exchanging blows with a teacher or student. It was light sparring, taking care not to overdo it, letting Azure Water School know about the cultivator's fighting strength and techniques. When the three walked out together, the cultivators in line turned to stare at them. Needless to say, they already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Junyu were Azure Water School's special enrollment students. Xia Jiqing waved her hand at Bailey Hongzhuang. The first part of the examination was already finished, and the second part was beginning right away. Hongzhuang, I didn't think that you'd be a special enrollment student. Xia Jiqing walked beside Bailey Hongzhuang, her eyes filled with admiration and surprise. Chapter 231. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly smiled. Jiqing, I'll introduce you. This is the other special enrollment student, Bai Junyu. Bai Junyu, this is my friend Xia Jiqing. Bai Junyu inspected Xia Jiqing. Her voluptuous figure combined with an adorable face really did give people a burst of passion. Sensing Bai Junyu's stare, Xia Jiqing's face instantly turned black. She was also very helpless about her figure. She didn't know what food she ate when she was a child, but her body made her so depressed that she almost wanted to die. Where are you looking? Have you never seen a beautiful woman before? Xia Jiqing snapped, irritated. Bai Junyu was still in a daze as he stared at Xia Jiqing, shaking his head. I really haven't seen such a beautiful woman like you before. Xia Jiqing's face turned startled. Could this guy not tell that she was scolding him? Receiving such a deadly serious reply, Xia Jiqing actually didn't know what to say. Miss Xia, it's very nice to meet you. Bai Junyu smiled a silly smile. Watching such a Bai Junyu, Xia Jiqing was speechless. This image and the image of special enrollment students she had imagined were completely different. It completely shattered her fantasies. Xia Jiqing was too lazy to talk to Bai Junyu and turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, I heard that the first and second parts are very simple. The real student selection is the third part. Bailey Hongzhuang slightly nodded. Showing your martial skills are also very important. As long as you show the martial skill you're most skilled in, it should be fine. Hearing that, Xia Jiqing pursued her brows. But shouldn't you show your most powerful martial skill? It isn't like that. The martial skill display is to see your level of mastery over the skill. The higher your understanding, the higher the score. If it was a very powerful skill but the cultivator had very little mastery over it, the score would not be very high. Bailey Hongzhuang's words are right. The martial skill display is to see who's good at martial skills. Bai Junyu added. Xia Jiqing glanced at Bai Junyu. What do you know? I really do know. My master told me this. Bai Junyu seriously answered. Really, I'm not lying to you. Xia Jiqing's lips twitched. Facing this guy, she really didn't know what to say. Hongzhuang, I'll listen to you. It'll be my turn soon, so I'm going to go prepare. Xia Jiqing said. Go for it. Bailey Hongzhuang grinned. Xia Jiqing originally prepared to use her most powerful martial skill, but after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, she changed her plan. She believed that Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't harm her. She changed it to her most skilled martial skill. Bailey Hongzhuang told Xiao Zifan the same thing. Xia Jiqing was already at the initial stage of Mysterious Ian, and knew that getting into Azure Water School wouldn't be too hard of a problem for her. But Xiao Zifan was only at the late stage of Mysterious Earth, so he needed to use everything he's got. Xianyuan Huan looked Bailey Hongzhuang. Before, he had always acted aloof and remote in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Now in Azure Water School, Bailey Hongzhuang was actually the focus and idol of many cultivators. This was truly luck playing with him. From beginning to end, Bailey Hongzhuang never had the least bit of contact of Xianyuan Huan. Even though their conflict had already come to an end, her initial bad impression had yet to fade. Not raising any more conflicts with him was the best situation for her right now, so it was best to just act as strangers. High on top of the stage, Xia Jiqing used her most skilled martial art. Although its power wasn't very strong, it was the skill that she was most familiar with. Chapter 232. Tong Xingyi's eyes were filled with ridicule as she watched Xia Jiqing perform her martial skill. Wanting to get a high score with that was simply impossible. Just now she had displayed the most powerful martial skill she had and got 92 points. If Xia Jiqing could get 80, it had already been very lucky. Xia Jiqing confidently finished performing her martial skill, and looked at the three teachers in anticipation. Her beautiful face had a smile, but her hands were secretly seeping with sweat under her sleeves. If the score was too low, she might not be able to pass the exam and enter Azure Water School. The three talked with each other, and soon after, one of them shouted, 98 points. Hearing the score, all the cultivators' stares gathered on Xia Jiqing. This was the highest score yet. Tang Xingyi's smile froze, staring at Xia Jiqing in disbelief. How did Xia Jiqing's ordinary marital skill manage to get a score of 98? Xia Jiqing felt a burst of ecstasy as an excited smile appeared on her bright face. She bowed towards the three judges and ran straight to Bailey Hongzhuang. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang really was right. If she followed her previous thoughts, using her most powerful martial skill, she'd never been able to get the highest score. She'd probably even score less than Tang Xingyi by a few points. She didn't expect that after following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, her score would actually be so high. From the three teachers' stares, she knew that they were very satisfied with her use of the martial skill. Hongzhuang, you were right. I actually got such a high score. I still can't even believe myself. Xia Jiqing smiled brilliantly, endlessly happy. Bailey Hongzhuang's face burst into a smile. For the third stage, you can only rely on yourself. Use all your strength and I'm sure you'll succeed. Tang Xingyi watched Xia Jiqing enviously. So everything was all because of Bailey Hongzhuang. Thinking up to here, her heart had a burst of unhappiness. If it wasn't for her, Xia Jiqing never would have been able to become friends with Bailey Hongzhuang. Acting like this, Xia Jiqing clearly wanted to exploit her. How could she, Tang Xingyi, let herself be exploited? She was definitely going to make her pay for it. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bai Junyu watched the cultivators go through the examination. Sometimes an excited or lonesome mood would appear on the crowd's face. Although many cultivators came here, only a small amount could stay in the end. It was because Azure Water School had such a small quota that becoming an Azure Water School student had such a high value. Time slowly passed by. Because of Azure Water School's efficiency, the examination speed was very fast. The ending was just as Bailey Hongzhuang had expected. Xia Jiqing had successfully passed and became a member of Azure Water School. After fighting with all his strength, Xiao Zifan had also managed to grab one of the last spots and also managed to become a student. Xin Yuanhuan passed through the test unobstructed. But Zhang Hanyue was a bit lacking and could only leave sadly. Bailey Hongzhuang walked with Xia Jiqing back to the dorm. For people lived in one dormitory, so she had to go and sort out her stuff. Hongzhuang, you have a whole dorm room to yourself? Xia Jiqing's face was a little envious as she talked with Bailey Hongzhuang. With 4 people staying in one room, of course nobody would be comfortable. It was very inconvenient. A special enrollment student's treatment really is special. It's truly enviable. Bailey Hongzhuang pulled Xia Jiqing's hand and replied, cultivate hard. Strength is what you'll need to depend on most. Once your performance is enough to get the teacher's approval, you can come live in the special enrollment dorm too. Chapter 233. Xia Jiqing's eyes shone. Her beautiful face eager as she asked, really? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head. That's what Senior Dongfang told me, so it shouldn't be wrong. That's great. I'll definitely work hard and then look for you. Her pitch-black pupils glittered with a staunch light as she waved her 2 tiny fists. Hongzhuang, my room doesn't have anything. Do you have time to go buy some stuff at Azure Water City with me? Xia Jiqing asked. Right now, her only friend at Azure Water School was Bailey Hongzhuang, and going to shop for things alone was just too boring. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded, I have time, but let's go after dinner. That's great. Xia Jiqing happily closed the door, pulling Bailey Hongzhuang as they walked off campus. Right now, a number of students rushing to buy things in Azure Water City wasn't small at all. After all, if they didn't but enough to live well today, there would be no way for them to rest at night. The merchants clearly knew what they'd be buying today, and had already long readied their supply for the students to choose. Bailey Hongzhuang accompanied Xia Jiqing to buy her things. By the time everything was finished, it was already rather dark and the two looked for a place to have dinner. All the dining cultivators stopped to stare as Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing entered the restaurant, their eyes turning bright. That white-skirted lady is one of the new special enrollment students. Her strength is currently unknown, But her looks really are enough to cause a downfall of a country. I heard a lot of people secretly debating if Azure Water School's #1 beauty was Lu Qinyue or Bailey Hongzhuang. Really, what a coincidence. Right after Azure Water School's #1 beauty Lu Qinyue comes in, Bailey Hongzhuang arrives as well. I think this Bailey Hongzhuang came after. It doesn't look like Lu Qinyue's #1 beauty position can be saved. Xia Jiqing heard everyone talk and swept a glance over the crowd, trying to find Lu Qinyue. It seemed like she was in a private room on the second floor. "Two misses, the private rooms on the second floor is already full. Would you two mind eating in the lobby?" the waiter asked, smiling. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Xia Jiqing, who nodded. "We don't mind." The two took a seat in the lobby. Xia Jiqing poured tea for Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "I think you're even prettier than that Azure Water #1 beauty. Earlier today when I was waiting in line for the examination, a lot of people were talking about you. The ones that were supporting you weren't few at all." Xia Jiqing's face was filled with excitement. From the first time she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she had always felt that she was the most beautiful woman she had ever seen. "You," Bailey Hongzhuang smiled indifferently. Since Lu Qinyue is praised by everyone as Azure Water School's #1 beauty, she'd naturally be very outstanding. So what? Xia Jiqing curled her lips. She's only first because the previous students just weren't as beautiful as her. Now that you're here, the title of #1 beauty would easily be passed to you. My master is the #1 beauty of the imperial city. A proud voice suddenly appeared, turning the happily talking Xia Jiqing stunned. She looked around, confused before asking astonished, "Hongzhuang, did you hear a voice just now?" A trace of helplessness appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Little Black really wasn't obedient. Chapter 234. Nope, you must have misheard or something. Bailey Hongzhuang replied. Did I? Xia Jiqing frowned. She had definitely heard a clear voice call out just now, but nobody else seemed to hear it. Really, how strange. Little White slapped Little Black's head and whispered, "Master told you not to speak at will, but you still dared to talk." Little Black rubbed his head, annoyed. "I'm just trying to help. If you guys talk again, no food for you tonight." Bailey Hongzhuang's voice caused Little Black and Little White to fall silent. Food was the two's weak spot. Bailey Hongzhuang, what a coincidence. We meet again. Dongfang Yu's voice was mellow and warm as he smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing. Bailey Hongzhuang was also a bit surprised to meet Dongfang Yu in the restaurant. It really is such a coincidence that Senior Dongfang would also come here to eat. Dongfang Yu nodded slightly. The school just started a new term, so we came here for a group dinner. Usually, we always go to this elegant cloud restaurant to eat. So it was like that. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Senior Dongfang, this is my friend Xia Jiqing. Senior Dongfang, it's very nice to meet you. Xia Jiqing's eyes twinkled with excitement. She had long heard of Dongfang Yu's good name. Amongst all the students in Azure Water School, Dongfang Yu had the highest evaluation. Not only was he powerful, but his conduct wasn't arrogant at all. His character was also gentle and easy to get along with. He was truly the Prince Charming in many women's hearts. She never thought there'd be a chance to meet him here. In the future, everybody will be friends, so if you have anything you need, don't be afraid to find me. Dongfang Yu smiled charmingly, his two phoenix eyes brilliant like stars. Xia Jiqing secretly sighed when she heard Dongfang Yu's words. Everyone's words truly weren't wrong. This Dongfang Yu really was easygoing. Dongfang. At this moment, a delicate and soft, sweet-sounding voice suddenly sounded as a figure slowly came out from a private room on the second floor. The lady wore a hibiscus-colored cheongsam. The originally fair skin seemed even more striking in the red garment, creating an absolutely captivating scene. Her long, fine black hair was combed into a sweet, unique bun. Her refined, graceful facial features were gentle and beautiful. Each and every move, every frown and every smile seemed to invoke a tender feeling inside the heart like water. Even Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help praise her when she saw Lu Qinyue. Really a good beauty, gentle and soft as water. You're friends. Lu Qinyue slowly walked down the stairs, her dainty face filled with a tender smile. After she came out, even the atmosphere seemed to turn gentle and soft. Dongfang Yu nodded with a smile. Yep, I'll introduce you. Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing. Bailey Hongzhuang, this is Lu Qingyue. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. I've long heard of Azure Water School's #1 beauty. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang already knew, Dongfang Yu laughed. Right, Lu Qinyue's name is just as famous as ours. I really have to wonder, how many men decided to join Azure Water School just after a glimpse of Lu Qinyue? Miss Bailey's looks are also outstanding and temperament is very good. My #1 beauty title is better left to you. Lu Qinyue softly smiled. In this moment, as Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Qinyue stood side by side, everybody could clearly see the difference in the two's temperaments. Lu Qinyue's facial features were gentle and soft. Her clothes were exquisite and outstanding, with a temperament as graceful as water. She was entirely worthy of being known as a water-like beauty. Just a simple single sentence was enough to make a heart go soft. Facing such a beauty, even the most ruthless of people would find it impossible to talk back. Chapter 235. But Bailey Hongzhuang was different. Compared to Lu Qinyue's delicate grace, Bailey Hongzhuang's clothes were very simple. She wore a basic white cheongsam, and her long hair was bound with only a single wooden hairpin. But her simple style actually made Bailey Hongzhuang stand out even more amongst the dust, creating a cold, ethereal image of a woman untouched by the secular world. Her facial features didn't look as soft or gentle as Lu Qinyue's, but her face seemed filled with life. Her two phoenix eyes were like a deep pool, seeming as if they could pierce through a person's heart, bright and dazzling. The two each had their own merits, both fully deserving of being called beauties. I think between the two it's still Lu Qinyue that's better. That pure, water-like beauty is truly a feast for the eyes. That's not right. I heard that in an inn, Bailey Hongzhuang and Tong Xingyi had gotten into a fight. I think Lu Qinyue is beautiful, but only beautiful, lacking the aura of a cultivator. I actually like Bailey Hongzhuang more. Everybody had different opinions and both sides had their own supporters. It was impossible to find one clear answer. Since we're all friends, won't it be better for us to all eat together? Lu Qinyue suggested. Big brother Gong is also going to come soon. Hearing Gong Shaoqing was also coming, Bailey Hongzhuang instantly lost interest. Just the thought of eating with that iceberg completely made the delicious food no longer appetizing at all. Thank you for the kind offer, but Jiqing and I are fine eating in the lobby. Bailey Hongzhuang tactfully declined. Since we all ran into each other, then let's stay together. Dongfang Yu added. We can all be considered to be brought upon together by fate. At this moment, a black figure entered the restaurant. Who else could it be apart from Gong Shaoqing? When Gong Shaoqing came, everybody's eyes turned envious. The target of their envy was naturally Xia Jiqing. In Azure Water School, different cultivators had different social circles, and the special enrollment circle was the circle everybody wanted to be a part of. Many of the cultivators within the circle would definitely turn into great and famous figures. If they could become their friend in the future, they'd have a relationship with a strong and knowledgeable figure. That in itself was a great achievement for them. Bailey Hongzhuang was a special enrollment student, so she was already a part of the circle from the beginning. But Xia Jiqing was only an ordinary student and managed to meet Azure Water School's famed figures because of Bailey Hongzhuang. How could they not envy her? Dongfang Yu, Gong Shaoqing, and Lu Qinyue always had a good relationship, but I didn't expect for them to suddenly invite Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing too today. It's really so enviable. Gong Shaoqing's eyes froze for a few seconds when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang. He clearly hadn't expected for Bailey Hongzhuang to be here as well. Gong Shaoqing, you came. Dongfang Yu smiled. I'm done with the teacher's assignment. Gong Shaoqing still treated his words like gold and simply grunted a reply, unwilling to spend even a single word. Big brother Gong, we just happened to run across junior sister Bailey here, and invited them to eat with us. Gong Shaoqing glanced at Bailey Hongzhuang and didn't speak. Shall we go? The foods and drinks were already sent up. Lu Qinyue spoke up. Seeing Lu Qinyue so cordial, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't refuse and could only go with Dongfang Yu and the others to the second-floor room. Xia Jiqing also knew that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't afraid to disturb Lu Qinyue and the others, but just simply didn't want to go. However, she could only keep silent. After all, she was a stranger to them. Interrupting wouldn't be appropriate. I ordered a bit of food to accompany the wine. Junior sister Bailey, you too should take a look. If it's not to your liking, you can order some other dishes. You're tuning in to the Lee May's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.